In a certain place, the entire space was shrouded in gloom and blood, making people feel chills down their spine. At this moment, a young woman raised her voice with steel-like sharpness. "Where is it?" But the one opposite only let out weak, gasping breaths without bothering to answer her. Seeing the other side not cooperating, the girl swung her sword in threat. "I ask you where you are." Even with a sword pointed at him, the young man still remained silent without saying a word. The two of them just stared at each other in silence, creating a deadly atmosphere. Who could have known that woman? At this time he recalled the identity of the girl before him, a direct disciple of the sword master, and with just one sword. Her sword strikes were utterly decisive, cutting toward her enemies. She alone had slaughtered hundreds of demons, the number one person under heaven. Countless demons had fallen on this land under her blade, ending the long drawn-out demonic war resembling hell itself. The girl kept slashing through her opponents. The number of demons she ended continued to grow. Her hands holding the sword showed no hesitation. Every strike she unleashed carried immense destructive power. That girl with eyes of peerless beauty, by slaying heavenly demons, the divine sword Romans 6:8. She grabbed the collar of the person before her and shouted loudly, "You surely know." Romans 6:8 lifted him high, questioning where the remaining demons had gone. Now her eyes were full of blazing anger. "If you still have a shred of conscience left." The young man only coughed in silence without answering. In his heart, he felt deep guilt. "I know, but my throat is ruined, so I cannot speak," and at the same time within his body, there was still a heart carrying talismans beating erratically. The guilty young man dared not look straight at Tite, because of the restriction he could not. She could no longer hold back and burst into tears. "This is the last chance." Tite's voice became choked. "Everyone wants you, but if you help me this time, I will wager everything I have to save your life." The young man still silently watched her, trembling. "So please." Tite lowered her face to the ground, letting her tears fall. "So please." But the only reply was emotionless coughing sounds. He kept asking himself, was it because of hatred that the demons escaped perhaps? However, at this time in his mind appeared the scene of Tite being happy with another man. But perhaps because that man betrothed to Roman 6 Tite, the sword star Liu Xingjian Zhang Xuanyan, was rumored to have been captured by demons. Thinking of this, he let out a mocking laugh. "Suddenly, I find it so ridiculous, a woman stronger than anyone else becoming so unsettled just because of one man." Seeing his reaction, Tite could not help but gnash her teeth in fury. Once again he was hoisted up by her. Tite showed no mercy as she flung the young man far away. She trembled, clenching her fist as she walked forward. "If I had known you were such a coward, I would have killed you the first time we met." Her tears kept rolling down her cheeks. She deeply regretted not being able to do it. The young man watched Tite turn her face away and walk off the first meeting. "Do you still remember when it was?" In his mind appeared the scene of them meeting on the street in their childhood days, perhaps very different from what I remember. At that time, the young man scornfully shouted when Tite offered him a sweet potato. He kept asking himself, where did it go wrong? He continued recalling the things he had done. "I am the traitor who stabbed countless people in the back and became a demon. Yes, in the end, after everything, all of it is my karma." At that time, Tite wiped her tears as she walked out of that painful place. Suddenly, she became alert when she heard a sound from behind. Tite turned her head and saw the man crawling on the ground writing something. She saw him, despite panting heavily, still seriously writing something, so she suspiciously asked, "Ku Duongthin, what are you doing?" At the same time, Duongthin's heart suddenly throbbed violently on his chest. Hideous veins kept bulging. He kept spitting out mouthfuls of blood right before Tite. Without thinking, Duongthin immediately pressed his finger on that spot. "The curse had descended upon me." He tried to prolong it as if to say something. Duongthin then remembered someone had once said, "If you break the law, your heart will explode and you will die." His heart was continuously being destroyed by the restriction, making Duongthin vomit fresh blood without stopping. The demonic power of the heavenly demon never betray the demonic sect. The voice of Tite rang out, "Ku Duongthin, Ku Duongthin, tomorrow let's continue." She ran to stop him in worry. Why are you suddenly bleeding? Could it be because of that? If it is no longer needed, then stop, but Duongthien stubbornly kept lying there, continuing his task. Now I can no longer hear clearly anymore, perhaps. Seeing the panicked expression on Taedae's face made him question himself even more. If I say I was wrong, that it was not my will, would you believe me? She looked back in horror at Duongthien's finger that could no longer move impossibly. Taeda widened her eyes and looked up, but at this point I no longer wanted to cling to any feelings. He tried to write down what she wanted to know as a final closure to this relationship, so be it. At that moment Duongthien's heart also exploded because of it. He lay sprawled on the ground looking utterly miserable. Duongthien's eyes were empty, no light remained in them. Why live such a life? The memories of the past suddenly flooded back. There was a girl in a red dress sitting in front of him. She slowly reached out her hand. That girl's hand gently touched the face of Duongthien. She forced a smile and whispered, "Junior brother, you must be happy." Back in reality, Taedae was holding him in her arms, crying out in pain, "Ku Duongthien, Ku Duongthien." However, at this moment Duongthien no longer had any hope of a mediocre life built from countless regrets, big and small. He remembered then there was a girl sitting before a pile of rubble. Ku Duongthien walked toward her. At last he stopped right in front of her. That person sensed it and asked if that was you. Suddenly she spoke in guilt. "I am sorry." But Duongthien only looked cold without uttering a word. Time returned again to reality. Taeda was crying, calling his name. Her tears fell heavily onto his face. Duongthien remembered himself also once shedding tears when the rain poured down. Even in that life someone raised a hand and asked, "Are you crying?" He stubbornly refused to admit it. "Don't talk nonsense, it is clearly the rain." That girl weakly replied, "Yes, not crying." She then asked again if the moon rose high. Duongthien slightly nodded, "Yes, very high." That girl smiled at both of us, then how fortunate. Her hand fell limply. The girl passed away in Duongthien's arms under the pouring rain. Returning to reality, he gradually weakened in Taedae's embrace. Now then, Ku Duongthien of the 9 families of Shaanxi, born into a righteous clan, lived as a righteous man, then betrayed, became a demon, was tortured after losing the great war between righteous and demonic, and died. His eyelids grew heavy. His eyes slowly closed. At last they shut tight. Yet just when it seemed life had ended, he was awakened by a noise, once more opening his eyes. Duongthien saw Taeda handing him a steaming sweet potato. "All right, thank you for wanting to eat roasted sweet potato." He stared blankly at the person before him, not understanding what was happening. Duongthien bewildered and looked at the crowded street bustling with people around him. Duongthien looked in confusion at his intact body. "What is this? Clearly I had." He recalled the tragic state of himself before violating the restriction of the heavenly demon. Duongthien also clearly remembered the cause of the incident, his heart exploding. He remembered clearly the last person he met dying in the arms of Roman 6 Taeda yet. Duongthien placed his hand on his chest to feel his heart still beating normally as if nothing had ever happened. After a while he released his hand. His hand gradually relaxed as if temporarily accepting this. He looked around, continuously questioning himself, and at the small clean hand. "It seemed like when I was still a child. Is this a dream?" Duongthien turned to glance, "But why is it?" Taeda at this time was still holding a basket of sweet potatoes, tilting her head, looking at him when I first met her. His gaze fell upon the hot sweet potato in her hand. Now that I think of it. What did I say then? The memory of the past rushed back. He had thrown away the sweet potato that Taeda offered. She looked on in amazement. Duongthien, even without hesitation, stepped on it with his foot, crushing it. He scornfully glanced at her, daring to give me this. "You really don't know your place." Returning to reality, Duongthien only held his head in distress. It seems that was how it was. However, when thinking back, he curved his lips into a smile. "This dream shows me that scene, probably because I still have many regrets." Just as Duongthien reached out his hand, Taeda, with a hint of grievance, asked, "Don't you like sweet potatoes?" He accepted one with a cheerful smile. Thank you, I will enjoy it. Without hesitation, Duong-Thin took a big bite. But the next second he screamed aloud from the heat. Not a dream, it is really hot. Taida burst into laughter happily, and your face is all red. Suddenly someone came running from behind calling the young master. The man gasped for breath, crying out, Young master, your disappearance worried your subordinates so much. So you were here. Duong-Thin tried to recall. This one is my guard. What was his name? In his heart he wondered. Faceless was it? He came forward saying your subordinate worried because he did not know what happened to you therefore. At the same time Faceless saw Duong-Thin opening his mouth with a swollen tongue holding a steaming sweet potato in his hand. Faceless angrily was about to draw his sword daring to touch the young master, but was stopped by Duong-Thin raising his hand enough to give it here. While he was still dumbfounded, Duong-Thin continued. I mean the cake you are holding, right? Faceless could not believe his eyes. Then he took out only one last piece. Without hesitation, Duong-Thin snatched it. Do you want to eat it? Taida happily asked, really truly giving it to me? He nodded firmly. Of course, the only witness. Faceless stood bewildered. Young master giving something to someone else. Duong-Thin shyly scratched his head and explained, I was given delicious sweet potatoes, so I can only return the favor with this. She looked at the cake, her mouth already watering, sparkling like this. Taida's eyes shone brightly with the sweet fragrance too. This is the first time I have received something like this. Suddenly at that moment loud shouting rang out, immediately drawing their attention. She saw a man running in panic shouting, Grandfather. The old man joyfully embraced Taida. You are safe. The girl also choked with happiness. Grandfather. The man spoke worriedly. I told you not to let go of my hand. Taida innocently lifted the basket of sweet potatoes. I am fine. I managed to keep the sweet potatoes. The old man shook his head in exasperation at this girl. The issue is not the sweet potatoes. He took her hand repeatedly checking, if you were hurt anywhere? Taida shook her head replying, I am fine. Then he asked again, you did not cause any trouble, right? She obediently replied, I did not. Duong-Thin stood dumbfounded in shock, realizing who the man was. Taida pointed out, there is still one sweet potato. The old man also looked in the direction she pointed. I already shared it with him. At that moment the old man hesitated for a while. Then he quickly pulled her along. Grandfather, where are you taking me? The old man said nothing and bowed his head, apologizing that my granddaughter is still young and ignorant. She may have caused inconvenience to the young master if she has done anything displeasing. I beg your pardon. However, Duong-Thin repeatedly waved his hand. It is nothing older, in fact, I should be the one giving thanks. Then he clasped his hands together. Duong-Thin politely expressed his sincerity. I was hungry. Fortunately, I was given sweet potatoes, so I enjoyed them greatly. He even respectfully held out the cake. I can only return the favor with this cake. If it is not troublesome, please accept it. The old man could only remain silent, staring at the cake. After a while he finally spoke to the young master. Perhaps before he could finish, Taida, a cut in it was all right, so sweet and sparkling. She stretched out her hand wanting to grab the cake. However, seconds later Taida was picked up by him and ran off, leaving him bewildered. No, we cannot accept such a precious thing, so we will take our leave and not trouble the young master anymore. Duong-Thin called after them, old sir, please stop. However, the man was extremely wary. Young master, if you are still angry, then vent it on this old man. But he cheerfully handed the cake to Taida. Consider this my return of favor. If there is a chance, we will meet again. The man beside silently observed them. He looked at them, thinking to himself, that child, now you feel a bit shy, as Taida gave him another sweet potato. Don't overdo it, really, then give me another sweet potato. He unconsciously smiled in satisfaction. It seems I have found it. The two stood waving goodbye from afar. Over here Duong-Thin also watched them go. After a while he suddenly sighed, which made Faceless anxiously ask, are you well? Duong-Thin had already recognized the identity of the earlier man who had once held the position of leader of the martial world. His aura and gaze commanded respect, and he was one of the three venerates known as the Supreme of Martial Arts, a figure who made everyone tremble. That person was none other than the sword Venerable Roman 6 Hiu Quan. Duong Thin looked at his angry retreating figure and wondered why the one who made the demonic sects fear would come to this place. But now he looked at Tite, pouting from being scolded, though it was a dream she had nearly perished. She cheerfully turned to wave goodbye. Duong Thin looked up and sighed. Faceless then reminded young master, "We must return now." He turned and left. "We must go." At that moment, the scenery was picturesque green fields carpeted with flowers, making Duong Thin tell himself, "Now I have no more regrets, it is time to wake." However, reality slapped him as soon as they arrived. Faceless reported, "Young master, we have returned." He raised an eyebrow in puzzlement. Duong Thin began to sink into thought. Damn, has it not yet ended? If it were a dream, he should have woken by now. A thought suddenly sprang to his mind. What if it is not a dream? Duong Thin kept questioning himself, could it be related to the curse of the heavenly demon? At that moment a voice rang out, strange indeed. He immediately turned his head. The voice was. The other slowly continued, "You dare appear before the master without running away." Duong Thin easily recognized the person. Fiery sword Ku Din too. He frowned in displeasure at my second sister, and the one who despised me the most. Duong Thin immediately noticed the large crowd and speculated by the way that everyone gathered because the master is about to arrive. He turned back just as Din Tu asked, "What trick are you playing today?" She contemptuously placed her hand on his shoulder and whispered, "If you intend to cause trouble, then stop here and leave." He indifferently brushed her hand aside. "I only came because this is where I must be." Din Tu gnashed her teeth bitterly. "So you dare, knowing yet you never showed your face all this time." Duong Thin glanced calmly and replied, "Yes, it is my fault. I will apologize to the master later." Faceless stood dumbfounded, finding it a very strange. Young master is unusually different today. Din Tu could not restrain her fury and shouted loudly at Duong Thin. Her anger erupted as she stepped forward and the ground cracked apart rapidly. The nearby servants could only cower in fear, not daring to make a sound. "I do not know what play you are planning today, but you had best stop here." Din Tu gritted her teeth in rage, "Because I am about to lose control." She continued, "Do not behave like this," but Duong Thin coldly raised his hand to cut her off. "Wait, the patriarch, no, the master is here." At that moment a horse appeared. The old man pulled the reins tight, making it neigh. He slowly spoke, "What is all this commotion?" Everyone immediately bowed respectfully. The ninth master did not respond, only silently raised his gaze. Duong Thin also looked up nervously. The old man did not reveal what he was thinking and said nothing. Suddenly the ninth master turned his head and called, "Steward." A man approached and respectfully answered, "Yes, master." As he dismounted his horse, he asked which sword squad is currently in readiness. The steward reported at once. "The first sword squad is resting after their return. The fourth sword squad is currently on standby awaiting orders." The ninth master led the group forward, not forgetting to command, "Then tell the fourth sword squad to prepare and come see me." Duong Thin remained silent, still unsure if this was a dream or reality, yet those eyes continued to pressure him. Suddenly the old man halted his steps. He turned back and spoke coldly. "The third young master after the meal came to the study to see me." Both Faceless and Din Tu turned to look at the stunned Duong Thin. He anxiously sought help. "Does anyone have digestive medicine?" Night quickly fell, darkness covering everywhere. At the manor the food had been lavishly laid out. Duong Thin looked at the steaming bowl of rice and sighed. He nervously picked up his chopsticks, thinking the atmosphere at the meal is still the same. Damn it, I do not even know if the food is going in through my mouth or my nose. As he ate, he pondered, being summoned alone is already uncomfortable, but first could someone please improve this atmosphere? Suddenly the ninth master called the second young lady. Holding a cup of wine, he asked, "I heard you have made progress in martial arts." Din Tu blushed shyly at the praise. "Yes, I have gained some insight, and a few days ago I reached 3 stars. The ninth master nodded in satisfaction. For your age, that is very fast and very good. Keep working hard. She bowed respectfully. Thank you, father, Duongthien quietly observed nearby. At that age, to have already reached 3 stars, it is truly impressive. A person with both talent and effort, it is only natural. The old man permitted sit down and continued eating. Dean too bowed again respectfully. She also noticed him observing her. Well, so my sister can smile. After all, smiling makes you look much prettier. However, when I clearly see the face of Dean too Duongthien showing disgust, I take back what I just said. Just as he was about to put food into his mouth, he was startled by a call from a third young master. The 9th patriarch asked with concern, I heard you went out to the street. Duongthien also nodded, admitting yes, I had something to do, so I went out for a while. After hearing, he only slightly nodded without saying anything more. The next moment, the 9th patriarch stood up. He said loudly, I will go first. You just continue eating. Duongthien felt confused, as if the man still wanted to say something. Then he had another thought. He said after the meal we would meet privately. Maybe at that time he would continue speaking. Right then a maid came to report the young master. She whispered softly into Duongthien's ear. The patriarch told you to rest well today, and tomorrow go to the study to meet him. Hearing this, he could not help but be surprised. The man changed his mind. He did not know how much later Duongthien sat blankly by the window. He looked dejectedly at the scenery outside, wondering, until now I have not woken up, so this is not a dream. Could this be the regression I once heard about? Suddenly Duongthien lowered his hand. His hand clenched so tightly that veins bulged. Then Duongthien thought of the scene of himself standing on a high mountain. Could I kill the heavenly demon first? No, it must just be a fanciful thought. How could I kill the heavenly demon, the one who killed even the 3 venerables? He then remembered what he had gone through, thinking of his previous life, when I had to live as a despicable demon man. Until the end of my life, I regretted so much. At that time, Duongthien only knew how to curl up in the dark corner. In that regretful past life, I realized so many things. He stretched out his hand to catch some strange red liquid. If I could live again, I would definitely choose another life. This time, Duongthien decided to let go anyway. The heavenly demon would be killed by Roman 6 Taide, and the demon sect would soon be destroyed. He pondered, looking at his clenched hands, until everything was resolved. I will live quietly and do my own things. I cannot miss this opportunity. Duongthien's eyes were full of determination. I will not repeat the mistakes of my previous life. Next, he let out a long breath. Duongthien began to circulate his energy to check the dantian in his body. The pill inside his body was still radiating a burning flame. Duongthien looked at his hand only to give a shy smile. In the dark night, he was extremely frustrated, checking all over his body, but there was only that little internal energy. Duongthien remembered the scene of Dean too radiating a powerful force, looking at this meager amount of internal energy. I now see how admirable it is that my sister reached 3 stars. He closed his eyes to think of another way, but anyway, it was not that nothing could be done. Duongthien sat cross-legged and began to circulate energy so that the dantian could move into the blood vessels, the secret cultivation method that was only passed down to the bloodline of the 9th family. Around Duongthien, streams of blazing red energy began to appear. Kudim Hoa Luan Gong, cultivating the secret art slowly like a blooming flower. He once again thought of Dean too. When reaching 4 stars, she would be able to release red inner energy, even the image of the 9th patriarch, and when reaching 7 stars would be able to cover the body with inner energy. The truth made Duongthien disappointed, but at present I am only at 1 star. He tried to focus again. I must quickly accumulate inner energy and cultivate to reach 2 stars. Streams of energy continuously radiated from Duongthien's hands. For a peaceful life, unlike the previous life, I cannot rely on the power of the demon race. The dantian inside his body was also undergoing change. I must cultivate my own strength. Duongthien's entire body was gradually undergoing a drastic change. He clenched his teeth as if in great pain. The problem is, Duongthien was startled and tried to escape from the meditation state. He collapsed onto the bed, panting non-stop. If I continue to try, I will die. Sweat on Duongthin's forehead kept pouring, indeed with a current strength. Using inner energy is not easy. If I continue, I will fall into Kai deviation. Yet very quickly, he still grinned. Duongthin was extremely satisfied. But anyway, it was not without result. His Danshan was now undergoing constant change. Duongthin reached out to seize it. Now he was full of determination. Although it was just the beginning, I had reached 2 stars. Just continue like this. Duongthin lay in his room making plans, step by step. But without delay, the sun had now risen, light shining everywhere. For a life different from the previous one, I will not act recklessly to avoid affecting the future. The chirping of birds continued to echo. Duongthin tiredly opened his eyes. The pain spreading throughout his body left him bewildered. Just cultivating a little and my whole body is already aching like this. He tried to stretch his tendons while walking outside. That is because I have not trained all this time. The road ahead is still long. When Duongthin was about to open the door, he had another thought. I will go to study in the afternoon. But now, he was immersed in his own thoughts without knowing someone was sitting waiting outside the door. Or should I continue training? Taida cheerfully spoke up. Hello, we met again. Suddenly a crack appeared in the sky. Someone asked in confusion, what are you looking at? Hey, are you not going home? On the street a man raised his head to the sky. Something is strange. Was this ever here before? Inside the crack an eerie eye appeared. The man's face immediately turned pale. What is this? Then a giant foot stepped onto the ground. Countless monsters poured out, and on that day from the void a mysterious gate emerged, from which demonic beasts flooded and brought calamity. That mysterious rift was commonly called the Demon Realm Gate. There was always a group of people who fought to destroy the demons. Each sect had trained a force, the only ones capable of resisting them. Every sect needed its own sword squad. Duongthin also remembered that the 9th family had 5 sword squads, and his eldest sister Kuhai was the leader of the 5th. At that time he was constantly oppressed by her, and I, who caused countless troubles, was forced to endure under her command for half a year. Just as Duongthin was being dragged away, he caught sight of a figure. His eyes widened in shock. Right there. The girl cast a glance at him. I had met Roman 6 Taide. Yet at that time she only looked at me indifferently. And so, the real meeting between us should have taken place at least half a year later after the sweet potato incident. Yet here she was. Time shifted back to the present. Taida cheerfully greeted. Hello, we met again. Duongthin froze as he saw her sprawled on the ground. He said nothing and went back into his room. You stayed up too late yesterday, right? Taida hurriedly reached out to grab the hem of his robe. Wait. He turned back, startled by her action. Blushing, she smiled and said, I hope to be taken care of. From today I will. But before she could finish, a hand separated them. Hiyu Quan sternly scolded. This girl, I already told you not to be rude to the young master. Duongthin looked at him in puzzlement. What did you just say? But the old man ignored him and continued to discipline Taide, apologizing to the young master quickly. She obeyed, lowered her head, and muttered, Guilty, guilty. Duongthin stood there dumbfounded, bewildered by the scene. What is this? What is happening? As he was still lost in thought, he noticed that Hiyu Quan also bowed. Respectfully he explained, Thanks to the Patriarch's grace, from today I will serve the young master. I am Roman 6 Van. Though old and weak, I will try my best. I hope to be accepted. This news left Duongthin even more confused. Roman 6 Van, not Roman 6 Hiyu Quan. Beside him Taida shyly introduced me. From now on I will serve the young master together with my grandfather. I am Roman 6. He frowned deeply, asking himself, serve? Who serves who? Me. With no choice he sighed helplessly. If it is the Patriarch's order, then father must have arranged it. After a while he calmed down and said, hoping to be taken care of, though in his heart he thought completely differently. This life feels dreadful from the very beginning. He then added, instead of calling me young master, could you call me 9th young master or Duongthin? Would that be all right? Hiu Quan respectfully answered, I understand the young master. Hearing that Duong Thien was speechless, fine. Time passed. The old man was still diligently sweeping the yard. He sat on the corridor resting his chin on his hand, feeling very puzzled. A sword venerable holding a broom to sweep the house. Hiu Quan also noticed keenly. He turned his head and gave a bright smile. This action left Duong Thien even more speechless. Is this really true? He glanced to one side, and more importantly, a pile of clothes stacked like a mountain was slowly moving. Hong Hoa beside her worriedly advised Taide, carrying that much alone is dangerous, yet Taide confidently assured, it is fine, Taide can do it. She added again, do not be stubborn, carry it with your sister, but she remained obstinate and refused to listen. Really, Taide can do it. Suddenly at this moment, Taide tripped over a stone on the ground. She, together with the pile of clothes in her arms, fell straight down. Taide only had time to let out a cry before her face slammed directly into the floor. Everyone present paid attention to her embarrassing scene. Finally all were speechless when the basket fell onto Taide's head. She groaned in pain without stopping. Seeing this scene, Duong Thien was also disheartened. How could one be so clumsy? While Taide was being comforted by others, it can happen. Everyone makes mistakes. He looked at this and could not help but wonder. Though she has martial talent, how can she be so clumsy? Duong Thien no longer had the mood to watch, so he turned away. Too much of a headache. Hong Hoa saw Taide leaving and looked up after her. Taide, where are you going? When he turned back again, he saw her carrying the pile of clothes approaching. Duong Thien asked doubtfully, why abandon the work? Taide calmly answered, grandfather told me to always follow the young master. He felt strange and asked again, who told you? Taide firmly replied, grandfather. Duong Thien, seeing her determination, nodded perfunctorily. I see. But then he realized, so Roman 6 Taide is actually my personal maid. The other maids behind secretly cheered her on. Taide, do your best. Only you can endure the young master. Seeing this, Duong Thien could not help but think, it is as if they are pushing the unwanted maid work onto Roman 6 Taide. Watching her struggle up the steps, he felt doubtful. After all, I am the descendant of a noble family. Can a maid be decided so casually? Duong Thien looked up at Roman 6 Taide, cheerfully fixing his robe. Well, Roman 6 Taide is acceptable, but a sword venerable is truly unbearable. After finishing, she excitedly said, done. His robe then became crooked and looked ugly. Duong Thien decisively took it off and adjusted it himself. Surprising Taide, does father even know their identities? How can this be? Or perhaps because the maids kept quitting he had to accept them. He did not think further and began putting on his shoes. Today I was told to go to the study. Once there it will be clear. Taide continued to follow closely regardless of Duong Thien's indifference. What was happening? She called out loudly, young master, I am coming too. He immediately refused her. Where are you going? Stay and learn your duties. Taide lowered her head, feeling wronged, tears about to fall. Yes. Hiu Quan from afar saw this and could not help but feel distressed. Duong Thien silently looked at her. Before leaving, he gently reminded her, anyway, you just focus on learning your duties well. But Duong Thien still stopped when he saw Taide crying there. He lowered his voice and called, hey. Duong Thien did not forget to promise her, I will bring you cakes, you just study well. After that the door closed tightly. When Taide heard his words, her face blossomed into a bright smile. Hiu Quan behind also sighed in relief. The dazzling sunlight shone everywhere. Duong Thien could not help but sigh inwardly, so worrying. He stood in front of the door for a long time. In the previous life I was not very close to the person. Never talked privately like this before. How should I speak? Since the person called me here first, surely there is something to say. Duong Thien rubbed his chin in thought. After hearing what the person said, I will ask, why are Taide and Roman 6 Hiu Quan at my place? Suddenly the 9th patriarch came over. Why are you still standing there? He was startled and turned back shouting, damn it, startled. The old man ignored it and continued, go in quickly. He respectfully replied, yes. Inside the room, Duong Thin sat like a lost soul in front of the ninth patriarch. In front of the patriarch and dared to curse, "Duong Thin, why don't you just die already?" The old man spoke with concern. "Have you met the new maids yet?" He honestly replied, "Yes, I have met and greeted them this morning." The ninth patriarch asked again, "Really, what do you think?" Duong Thin looked at the steaming basket of buns in front of him and respectfully replied, "I am very grateful that the patriarch cares for me and gives me maids, but why did you—" The old man said nothing, just silently drank a sip of tea. The ninth patriarch slowly spoke, "Do not ask yet. When the time is right I will let you know." He said nothing more, just obediently replied, "Yes, I understand." After that Duong Thin fell into silence. In his heart he kept speculating. Father already knew clearly, but still let them become maids. Surely he had spoken with Roman 6 Hiu Quan already. The ninth patriarch also reassured, "Do not bother about these trivial matters. Prepare for the 9 dragons assembly that will take place tomorrow." Duong Thin nodded and replied, "Yes, I understand." He furrowed his brows in confusion. "The 9 dragons assembly, what is that?" But after a moment Duong Thin widened his eyes in realization. "The 9 dragons assembly." Duong Thin spoke in a daze, cutting my throat immediately. Vodine cried out in confusion, "Young master," he asked, "do you not want to participate in the 9 dragon assembly that much?" The boy replied without hesitation, "Yes." Duong Thin recalled old memories. The 9 dragon assembly was an event held to acknowledge the merits of the sword teams, those who risked their lives for the 9th family, for the people of Shanxi. The surrounding natural scenery was extremely beautiful, closing the Demon Realm Gate, and it was also an important event held twice a year, to recruit new members for the Sword Association. Therefore, all direct bloodlines were required to participate in the 9 Dragon Assembly. Duong Thin no longer cared. "Cut my throat quickly. Once dead, I will not have to participate anymore." Vodine took out a scroll and said, "In that case, you will really be killed by the family head." He added further, "This 9 dragon assembly will be presided over by the 2nd elder. If you run away again, the 2nd elder will tear you apart." Duong Thin was extremely shocked when he heard that, the 2nd elder. He clenched his teeth in thought, "Damn it, so it was that old man." Horrifying images continuously appeared in Duong Thin's mind, since childhood, among all the elders who always wanted to devour me alive. The 2nd elder was the scariest. "Where do you intend to go?" "As the only son of the 9th family head, I must become someone proper, so that in the future the 9th family could become a noble clan." Duong Thin still vividly remembered the scene of being grabbed by the head by him. He thought inwardly, looking at it from one aspect he was also a good man, but as an elder his work was already very busy. Yet whenever he had free time he would appear, forcing me to study and scolding me. It was truly unpleasant. Yet Duong Thin could not help but sigh. He was even more responsible than my father. He muttered under his breath, "He tried so hard and yet I still lived like a fool. Then I am truly impressive." Vodine was bewildered when he heard Duong Thin say that. He looked at the carriage outside and said, "I spoke to myself again. So when will we depart?" He immediately replied, "When everyone is ready." How could she be so beautiful? When she grows up, she will surely make countless men fall for her. Duong Thin asked, "Hong Hoa, are you ready yet?" She finally turned back. "Young master, forgive me. I was busy worrying about Taida Sel." He frowned in annoyance. "Taide, what trouble has she caused again?" Hong Hoa was flustered and did not know how to answer. "The matter is—" Taida stepped forward from the center, her face flushed red. Duong Thin was dumbfounded at the sight. Immediately after, his own cheeks also turned as red as a tomato. Taida blushed and lifted her eyes. She quickly ran over and called, "Young master." Taida excitedly shared her joy with him. "The senior sisters said I am very beautiful." Duong Thin turned his head away in embarrassment. Never mind. Yet deep inside his thoughts were completely different. Beautiful. Indeed, she was truly beautiful. Taida lifted her hand to tuck her hair behind her ear. She looked up with anticipation and asked, "Young master, am I beautiful?" Duong Thin's face flushed red. He hurriedly changed the subject. Everyone, what are you doing? Let's depart now. But Taide was still persistent. Young master, am I beautiful? He refused to answer and urged them again. Let's go. This inevitably made her feel aggrieved. The wheels kept rolling quickly along the road. Taide eagerly poked her head out to admire the surrounding scenery. How amazing the carriage was moving, and so fast too. Hong Hoa, seeing her like that, could not help but wonder, Taide, is this your first time riding a carriage? Taide happily replied, I always thought horses were only for eating. I never knew they could run this fast. At that moment Duong Thin also raised his head and asked, Vodine, where did you say this 9 Dragons assembly will be held? He quickly answered, it seems to be at the Tian Yi Merchant Guild, young master. Immediately Duong Thin realized, the Tian Yi Merchant Guild is the most famous guild in Western Mountain. The second elder must have spent considerable effort. Vodine kindly advised, in 2 hours we will arrive. You should rest a bit. Duong Thin let out a sigh. Very well. At that time Duong Thin irritably turned his head and saw Taide still talking non-stop. Sister, horse meat does have a strange smell. While she was still talking enthusiastically, despite its taste, he shoved a bun into Taide's mouth to silence her. Be quiet and eat the bun. She immediately stopped speaking and obediently gnawed on the bun in her hand. After dealing with Taide, Duong Thin lay down right away. Finally quiet. Now I can sleep for a while. His eyelids gradually closed. At last Duong Thin could sink into sleep. Yet not long after, Taide called out, young master, young master. He snapped irritably, there are no more buns. Her expression became disappointed. Is that so? At that moment Vodine spoke up. Taide, have you told the young master that we have arrived? Only then did Taide remember, that's right. Then Duong Thin suddenly sat up, and we had already arrived. He leaned his head out to look outside. On the road ahead, countless lanterns were strung across every path. Duong Thin stepped outside and stretched his body. Since it was the grand festival of Western Mountain, many people had gathered there, while Taide, having just caught a whiff, was already drooling. It smelled so good. Duong Thin was startled when he heard someone speak, welcoming the young master for arriving. The old man introduced himself. I am the deputy master of the Tian Yi Merchant Guild, Tian Dike. An honor to meet the little star of the 9th clan. Duong Thin happily clasped his hands in greeting. I am Jiu Duong Thin of the 9th clan. I am also very honored to meet the deputy master of the Tian Yi Merchant Guild. He felt a bit uneasy when hearing Tian Dike say, thanks to the second elder and the 9th young lady's care, the first day has passed smoothly. Young master must be tired. I will lead you to the resting chamber. Please follow me. In his mind Duong Thin could not help but think of Dean too, the 9th young lady, her. On the way he grew more anxious. Could it be that he would encounter her again? Finally they stopped when they met a figure, and perhaps it would become reality. Dean too was pushing open the door to a room when she turned to look at them. Her teeth clenched in rage. Duong Thin politely greeted his elder sister, but Dean too immediately cut him off. Do not greet me, it is bothersome. With great arrogance she continued, I do not know if you intend to cause trouble at the 9 Dragons assembly, but if you do then restrain yourself. Nothing is more shameful than the bloodline of the clan staining the honor of the clan. Duong Thin cheerfully replied, I will hide well and slip away quietly, so my sister need not worry. She turned angrily, who would worry about you? Yet at this moment Dean Tu's eyes fell on Taide. Frightened, she quickly hid behind Duong Thin's back. Dean Tu let out a mocking laugh. Annoyed, she asked, the old habits again. You came here still intending to stir up trouble. Duong Thin confidently put his hands on his hips. What are you talking about, sister? Before entering the room she added, I thought you had changed. But indeed rivers and mountains may shift. One's nature is hard to alter. The door slammed shut after her words. Duong Thin was left bewildered. Sister was speaking nonsense. Come on, let us go. My apologies for letting you witness such an unpleasant scene. Tian Dike cheerfully responded, It is fine. I heard siblings often quarrel. Now the young master must be weary. let us proceed to the chamber. At that moment another voice asked, before that, may I visit a place first? After a while they arrived at the arena. Everyone was in awe. Tae's eyes widened in astonishment. So vast. I have never seen a place so immense. Duong-fin beside her also agreed, indeed. Looking at the arena before him, he thought to himself, it is said that merchants often measure the strength of a guild by the scale of its enterprises, so they expand their arenas enormously. But this is a bit excessive. Duong-fin thought of the scene with Jiu-din too and the others. Today is the day to acknowledge the contributions of the sword squad. Even the fighters clashed against each other, and tomorrow would be the day for selecting new members of the sword squad that everyone anticipated. Duong-fin quietly rejoiced. Fortunately, the direct bloodline was not required to participate. At that time he was still focused on the ground below. What I must do here is only to observe. Yet Duong-fin failed to notice the figure silently standing behind him. Surely, if it is only observation, then nothing will happen, right? A deep voice suddenly resounded. This time you are not running away, right? Duong-fin immediately shuddered and spun around. Before he could even see who it was, that large hand had already reached fiercely toward his head. With a face full of panic, Duong-fin instinctively resisted. I must stop it. But truly worthy of being the elder who terrified Duong-fin, before he could do anything, that hand was already rubbing the top of his head. Jiu Luan smiled heartily under the bright moonlight, kindness glimmering in his eyes, as he asked, why are you here? Aren't you the brat who always ran away whenever you saw me? Hearing this, Duong-fin could only answer helplessly, you said if I did not appear you would break me in two. Jiu Luan was startled. Who would ever say something so cruel? The boy calmly and honestly replied, second elder. The old man burst out in a carefree laugh and teased, now you even dare to talk back to me. Duong-fin sighed in frustration, enough already, grandpa. At that moment, in his heart, Duong-fin thought, all along the second elder has carried a strange obsession with me. Probably because I am the clan master's only son. Standing obediently at the side, Roman 6 showed a bright curiosity. Bear meat must be tasty, horse meat too. Bear is chewy. Her voice grew weaker and weaker as she looked at the face like a grim executioner before her. In the end, she could only repeat a few broken words with a pale face. Hearing her thoughtless babbling, Jiu Luan's eyes turned like those of a beast stalking prey, veins bulging across his forehead. The little girl was frightened to tears, her eyes brimming as she stammered apologies. Sorry. Unable to watch any longer, Duong-fin spoke up to defend her. Elder, if you keep staring like that you will terrify everyone. Feeling wronged, she hid behind his back and whispered to herself, I will not eat bear meat again. Noticing the way the boy looked at him grew increasingly strange, the elder asked, why are you looking at me with such unease? Is that girl your concubine? Jiu Luan cheerfully pointed a finger straight at Roman 6 A. Duong-fin stood with hands on his hips and denied. What are you saying, elder? Look at her clothes. She is a handmaiden. He lost all interest. He folded his arms and turned his face away. Fine. If you say so, then so be it. How boring. Tomorrow is the 9 Dragons battle. Although you only need to observe, you still must participate, so go back and rest. Roman 6 ran off in fear and called softly, young master, run quickly before you get eaten. He helplessly. When Duong-fin approached Taide and saw her urging him to run, Ku Luan suddenly remembered and said, one more thing. If you run away, he said with a meaningful smile, making the cutting throat gesture with his hand. Duong-fin could only reply helplessly yes. Taide shrank back and whispered cautiously, Grandpa Bear wants to eat the young master. He slowly explained, that means I will cut your throat. This sentence made her startle and gasp. By then Ku Luan had turned away. He glanced at Duong-fin and thought to himself, indeed that child has something special, his voice warm and full of thought. Early the next morning, the day of the 9 Dragons battle arrived. People swarmed at the city gate to enter and take part. glancing at the endless lines. Duong Thin complained, we heard it would start early, but looking at this queue, it will probably only start at noon. Faceless replied helplessly that was true. He continued analyzing from the sects in Shanxi to the branches of the ninth family. Anyone who could prove their identity could participate, but he did not expect it to be so crowded. Becoming a member of the Sword Squad was a huge matter. Faceless nodded in agreement. At that moment Roman 6 Taita hesitantly spoke to the young master. Maybe Grandpa Bear will come to cut my throat. Can we tell him to hibernate instead? Jiu Duong Thin ground his teeth helplessly now. It is spring now. If you are so frightened, why not stay in the room? She shyly explained, Grandpa told me not to leave the young master. The weather is too hot. He had to push Taita aside and thought to himself, since it was the Sword Venerable's words, he could not argue. After thinking, he turned to the girl, pointing at Faceless, and said, it is fine if the Grandpa Bear comes. The guard here will defeat him. Taita immediately brightened. Really? Faceless for a moment did not understand Grandpa Bear what. He explained, it is the second elder. He immediately flinched. How could I defeat the second elder, and one must call him sir? Duong Thin could only shake his head helplessly. There was no other way. Taita sacrificed your neck so everything goes smoothly. She heard that as if struck by lightning. Taita did not want to. Today is a Taita's memorial day. If everyone is happy because of a Taita's neck, then I will. He quickly. However, Taita still could not break free from her panic. Young master, today Taita will be killed by having her throat cut. Jiu Duong Thin averted his gaze. I said I was joking. She seized the opportunity and pointed toward the nearby bun cart. Grandpa says better to die full than to die hungry. Especially dying from eating buns makes one even more beautiful. Hearing this, he froze. A long drawn-out sigh echoed through the air. Faceless, seeing Duong Thin's indulgence, remarked, you treat your maid very well. He asked in surprise. Who are you talking about? Faceless nodded slightly. Yes, I mean Roman 6 the maid. Duong Thin turned and replied, really, do you not see? She is a maid yet dares to ask me to buy buns for her. Strange, isn't it? He could not explain directly because the image of Roman 6 Taita from a past life kept appearing in his mind, so he did not know how to treat her. Faceless continued to smile gently. But after all, she is a maid, and yet you still bought it for her? Jiu Duong Thin was about to defend himself. Not that, it is because. But then he lost his words. He really could not say more because the truth was plain before his eyes. Duong Thin pondered and turned away, leaving Faceless behind, still smiling and watching. He stepped closer and commented, you are nothing like the rumors. Indeed, one cannot judge a person by gossip. Perhaps I need to learn more. At this, Duong Thin felt annoyed. You're talking too much just over a bun. Faceless. Wait, you heard rumors about me? How long have you been my guard? Hearing Duong Thin's question, Faceless quickly tapped his fingers to calculate, and then answered, less than half a month later. He quietly pondered to himself, perhaps you were assigned this task just before I returned. That is why you said so. I do not know whether to call Faceless lucky or myself lucky. Suddenly a voice thundered across the sky. Young lady, making both Duong Thin and Faceless startle and snap their heads around. That voice belonged to Lu Tai. She was speaking from afar to Bin Ahai. Young lady should not walk alone in such danger. The young lady only responded with a darkened face. Lu Tai, you worry too much. I heard the 9 Dragon gathering is being held. There are so many people of the Jiu family here. How could anything happen? Duong Thin, secretly listening, quickly rummaged through his memory. This voice sounded familiar. Could it be? On the other side, Lu Tai continued to complain. That is why I am even more worried. What if the young lady encounters the 9th young master? Those 3 words, 9th young master, struck Duong Thin's ears like a heavy blow. He had to calm himself. Me? Impossible. There are so many men in the Jiu family. How could it be me? At the same time, Bin Ahai also suddenly denied. Impossible, as there are so many people here. Duong Thin immediately widened his eyes, sensing something wrong. That was not something she should have said. From afar she continued speaking while turning to leave, therefore hurrying. Before finishing the sentence, Ahai's gaze fell upon Duong Thin and Faceless. 4 people, 2 in red, 2 in black, all instantly froze. He only furrowed his brows slightly, his heart filled with unspoken thoughts. The young lady before him stood agape, speechless. The first to react was Faceless. He leaned in and whispered slowly into Duong Thin's ear, "Young master," looking at that lady and the guard beside her. "It seems they have seen something they should not have. Can you guess who they are?" In his eyes Bin Ahai's face grew dark. He calmly analyzed, no mistake, shoulder-length hair, black eyes like marbles. The ring on her hand, with patterns visible only under close observation. But to me, who already knows, its meaning is clear. Ha Bak Bin clan, a great family dwelling amidst mountains intertwined with a treasured sword brimming with spiritual energy. The image of Ahai from his past life appeared, her hair neatly tied up, dressed with elegance, her face tinged with a faint blush. Opposite her sat Jiu Duong Thin, unruly and arrogant, their demeanors utterly contrasting. He softly uttered, "My former." Duong Thin continued to sink into deep contemplation. The reason for the marriage arrangement with one of the 4 great clans, the Ha Bak Bin family, was very simple. The Ku family was also a prestigious clan, not inferior to the great families, and we were about the same age. If nothing changed, I would become the family head. And the Bin family also considered that a marriage alliance with the Ku family was a good choice. The problem was that I had caused too many troubles. Unpleasant rumors about me not cultivating and only causing mischief made the Bin family dissatisfied, and the peak of this engagement was precisely my words and actions toward her. Returning to reality, Bin Ahai finally regained her composure and asked, "Why are you here?" Ku Duong Thin also responded, "I am the one who should be asking that. What are you doing here?" She raised her brows in annoyance. "I am here because of business. The Western Mountains are not your family's land that I must report to you." He calmly spoke. "If you put it that way, then I have nothing more to say." This indifferent and improper attitude made Ahai finally explode. "But why do you keep speaking so casually to me? I am older than you by 1 year, have you forgotten?" Duong Thin put on a bright face and a sweet voice. "Sorry, I forgot, elder sister, is that fine?" Then he immediately turned away, calling to Taide, "Hey, if you finished buying the buns, then come here quickly." She giggled, carrying a pile of trays stacked with buns, and replied, "Yes." After thinking for a few seconds, Duong Thin salvaged a bit of kindness to remind Ahai, "Whatever you came here for, be careful. We are busy now, excuse us." As soon as he finished speaking, the 3 of them left, leaving her and Lu Tai slightly bewildered. Ahai frowned in confusion, clicking her tongue lightly. As he departed, he left behind another heartfelt reminder to make it clear, "Whether you came here for work or leisure, be careful." She stood behind, utterly puzzled. "Why, I already have a headache from that matter. Why do I have to run into this man again?" Beside him was also a girl I had never seen before. No, a maid. Bringing along such a beautiful maid, compared to before. Bin Ahai recalled the past, the arrogant and conceited demeanor of Duong Thin engraved in her memory. "What do you know? Just a concubine yet dared." Those words finally made Ahai explode. She radiated a murderous aura and growled, "What did you just say?" Duong Thin raised a smug face and replied without courtesy, "I was not wrong." Immediately a punch like heaven struck his face. Ahai, though furious, tried to restrain herself so her voice would not be too harsh. Although the engagement was arranged, and I have also heard unpleasant rumors about the 9th young master, but I endured them for the honor of the Bin family. Saying that she tried to turn and leave, despite Lu Tai trying to stop her, the young lady first calmed down. Bin Ahai decisively shrugged her away. She stamped her foot hard on the ground, locking Duong Thin in place. Ahai grabbed a wooden chair and raised it high, ready to send him to heaven immediately. "Engagement or whatever, you are dead, bastard." Moments later, the sound of smashing and crashing echoed continuously throughout the courtyard. Returning to the present, Ahai pondered, still unchanged from before. Then a gentle voice sounded, "Is it not heavy?" Tied it up front laughed brightly in reply, It is fine, Duongfin lightly complained. Does not look fine at all. Give it here. I will carry it for you. Vodine also stepped forward. I want to carry too. Of course he disagreed. You are a guard, so watch the surroundings. If there is extra, bring it to Hong Hoa. He immediately obeyed happily. The harmonious scene of the three before her made a high fall into contemplation. Duongfin looked very gentle, in stark contrast to the arrogant image from before in her mind. It seemed something was different. Impossible. He must be in a good mood today. That bastard being considerate cannot be impossible. But slightly, Bin Ahai hesitated and slowly glanced up. Her heart trembled, no longer as repulsed by him as before. Suddenly a piercing shout rang from afar. No, what did I mean? Duongfin broke into a cold sweat. I have been startled too much today. Vodine worriedly asked. Young master, are you all right? He said softly. I am fine. But, before he finished, Roman 6 Tide A interrupted. Young master, is the bun all right? Duongfin, utterly exasperated, ordered, be quiet. In the distance, a martial artist of the 9th family spoke to calm them. Shouting like that is useless. First calm down. The person across slammed his hand on the table with a bang. I do not have time. If you are captured, will you take responsibility? The martial artist lowered his voice. Captured? What do you mean captured? Then he and the 2 martial artists beside him fell into shouts rose again. No, let me participate. What are you saying? In that commotion, Vodine on this side said to Duongfin, we should go now, young master. Indeed, anyone can join the 9 dragons battle. But those with unclear origins cannot participate. Do you mean should we just let him make trouble like that? Fine. He spoke with boredom. Those who cause disturbances in the 9 dragons battle are not few. The martial artists of the 9th family will handle it themselves. Just as he said, all 3 martial artists were frowning, staring at him and thinking of a solution. The tall martial artist who had remained silent all this time gently patted his shoulder and softly persuaded, let it go. Suddenly the young man grabbed his wrist without a word. Then as fast as lightning he threw him over his shoulder. The unexpected strike sent him crashing to the ground, causing quite a shock. The martial artist who had been fighting with the young man earlier was startled and jumped up. What are you doing? He raised his head, his eyes glowing with a murky purple. I have proven my strength. Now can I join the 9 dragons battle? 2 shouts rang across the space. After causing such a thing, how could it be allowed? Why, I have already proven my strength. Vodine froze with worry and asked again, should we intervene now? While Taida was thrilled, just now that person went slash slash boom boom, boom boom bang bang. It was amazing. But Ku Duongfin remained unconcerned. He only gave a cold order. Let's go. Vodine called after. Are we abandoning that young hero? He turned back to remind, I do not want to get entangled in troublesome matters, so I went inside quickly. He still hesitated, but Duongfin spoke sternly. Who knows, they will handle it themselves. On the other side, the martial artist still shouted loudly, you cannot do this, we have our own rules. If your identity cannot be confirmed, you cannot enter. The young man slammed the table in defense. I have already proven my identity through strength. The man replied with concern, that makes it even worse. The young man erupted shouting, or is it now? Are you looking down on the young master of the Bin family? Hearing this title, Ku Duongfin snapped his head back. Ahai and Lu Tai reacted the same way. Both of them opened their mouths wide in astonishment. He screamed in his heart, staring straight at Bin Vu Tran standing tall before him. What did you just say, young master of the Bin family? While the tension rose, the little girl Roman 6 Tide A was still overjoyed with trays of steamed buns. Recalling the time before, in the cold winter, snow covered the entire palace. Under the eaves, Ahai glanced over and asked, Senior brother, what are you doing? Vu Tran was sitting in the snow making a fire. Ahai, my sister, good morning. It is too cold, so I am warming myself by the fire. And by the way, roasting sweet potatoes. She clarified her question. I will not ask why you are making a fire in front of the room. But what are you planning to do with that token in your hand? He held up the wooden token, this one. The sweet potatoes would not cook, so I thought of using it as firewood. Immediately an unidentified object flew straight at Vu Tran's head. He cried out in pain, "How dare you throw a stone at your elder brother?" Ahai raised her brows and answered, "Because you are doing something that deserves to be hit." "Do you even know what that thing in your hand is?" he shouted. "Firewood." She restrained the anger rising in her chest. As the most outstanding new disciple of the Nlongguan under the martial alliance and becoming the youngest young master, the family head gave you the Bin family token. Do you know what this token can do? Vu Tran still nonchalantly replied, "Make the fire stronger." That foolish answer made Ahai furious. She rushed at him throwing punches. "You fool! You should be aware of your position as the young master." She looked down from above. Bin Vu Tran lowered his gaze, his face carrying a trace of sorrow. "Young master, that is right." Seeing the sadness of her senior brother, Ahai also became gloomy. The atmosphere grew heavier. She confessed, "Sometimes I do not understand what you are thinking. Though still young, you already have talent, strength, and high status as a young master. Yet why are you always frowning?" Hearing this, Vu Tran only smiled brightly. "I am not frowning." But his face betrayed a hint of stiffness. Then Vu Tran looked up at the sky, catching each falling snowflake. His voice turned solemn. "It is just, I want to leave the clan for a while." Bin Ahai blew on the roasted sweet potato and casually suggested, "Then go out for a while." He sat upright, eyes wide open in surprise, and let out an "oh." Not long after, a letter from Vu Tran was quickly sent. In it, he wrote only one line, "I am going out to play for a while." The letter reached Ahai's hands and was crumpled in her furious grip. Ahai burned with anger and said to Lu Tai, "That senior brother, he thinks a while means disappearing for 4 months." She beside her could only stammer, "Young lady, the beggar's sect has sent news of the mission you entrusted." Ahai's face twisted. "So that scoundrel, where is he?" Lu Tai approached and whispered into her ear, "In Sun Te." Ahai was startled. Sun Te? Why did he go to such a faraway place? Returning to the present, Vu Tran was still furiously shouting, spittle flying everywhere. "Why not? I have already proven my strength. Therefore let me join the 9-Dragon Assembly." The martial artist still tried his best to calm him down, calm himself. "We also have rules," but he did not bother to listen to a single word, immediately cutting him off. "No, I do not have time. Must I use the Dark Night Blade here for you to believe?" Vodine immediately bent down and whispered, "Young master, did you hear that?" Ku Duongthien widened his eyes in disbelief. "Dark Night Blade, that martial art is only taught to people of the Bin family, is it not?" In his heart he judged, "That one knows the Dark Night Blade. Then is he truly one of them. Whoever he is, we must escape before being dragged into trouble." Suddenly a large hand appeared. Ku Luan suddenly approached from somewhere, lightly pushing Ku Duongthien's head back. "He knows the Dark Night Blade. He is certainly not an ordinary man." Ku Duongthien was exposed and cursed inwardly. "Damn it, it is over." He pulled Ku Duongthien's head towards the martial artist and Bin Vu Tran, who were conversing. Speaking with judgment, "His martial arts are not bad. Let him join." As soon as Ku Luan finished, Vu Tran immediately clasped his hands respectfully. He bowed his head low and introduced, "I am young Master Bin Vu Tran, an honor to meet the famed Demon Fist hero of the Ku family." He burst into booming laughter. "That was the title I used when I was young. It has been long since I last heard it. You may now join, do not worry." The martial artist still tried to protest. "Elder, no. We have not verified his identity. We cannot let him participate." Ku Luan's voice was full of determination. "He is certainly the son of the Bin family." The martial artist pondered and asked again, "Are you speaking of that person?" Ku Luan laughed and confirmed, "One look at his face shows he is the son of that family head. That fierce physique can only belong to someone of the Bin family." Ku Duongthien thought helplessly. "What about your physique then?" He continued with analysis. "Moreover, just looking at the black ring on his hand is enough to verify his identity." Ku Duongthien silently realized, the ring is identical to Bin Ahai's. Could it truly be that he is the young master of the Bin family? Luin smiled broadly, bowed, and asked, "Now tell me the reason." "I am also curious. The 9-dragon battle is to select the sword squad of the Ku family. So why would the young master of the Bin family want to join the sword squad of another house?" Vu Tran boldly and honestly answered, "Because it is not fun there." Hearing that, he burst into roaring laughter. "The reason is amusing indeed. Have you been given permission by the Bin family?" Behind him, Vu Tran, with a face as bright as a blooming flower and a voice full of youthful vigor, replied, "They would surely not agree, so I left home." Luin laughed even harder, tears and snot streaming everywhere. "Left home, Duongthien." Duongthien's expression did not change, still cursing inwardly. "This one is insane." Looking at Bin Vu Tran's burly figure from head to toe, Luin placed his hands on his hips and assessed, "The body is well trained. How old are you?" He honestly answered, "This year I am 23. He could not help but exclaim in admiration, "Still so young, yet having reached this level. The Bin family is raising a dragon. If only that fool of mine learned even half of this." Luin glanced over with exasperation. On this side, both Faceless and Roman Six-Tide simultaneously whispered into Duongthien's ear, "Surely they are not talking about young master, right?" Grandpa Bear said young master is a fool. "But what is a fool?" His face darkened. His tone turned icy. "Both of you be silent. It hurts even more to hear." Inwardly he told himself, "Anyway, I am not upset. If that person truly is Bin Vu Tran, then he really is a dragon." The nickname that will be given to him in the near future is the Butcher Bin Vu Tran. Bin Vu Tran belongs to the Bin family, and there seems to be another member of the Bin family here as well. While Duongthien was seriously calculating, a guard and a maid behind were still gossiping non-stop about what a fool is, and bluntly criticizing each other's knowledge. At that moment, Bin Ahai hurriedly ran over despite Lu Tai's attempts to stop her. She called out 2 times with a voice full of grievance, "Senior brother." Hearing the familiar voice after so many years, Vu Tran eagerly turned around. "Oh, who is this?" "Ahai, little sister." Before he could finish his words, a foot immediately stomped hard into Vu Tran's face, blood splattering everywhere. He was instantly blown back by the force like thunder, his whole body crashing heavily onto the rocky ground. Ahai now looked like a resurrected demon queen, her entire being radiating boundless killing intent. This bastard dared to become the young master, yet only left behind a letter and ran away from home. Vu Tran's face dented from his junior sister's kick. He hastily tried to justify, "Wait, please listen to me." She, with eyes like a hunting beast, agreed to let her senior brother speak his final dying words. "If you have anything to say, then say it." Facing the overwhelming killing aura in front of him, he realized that every excuse had become meaningless. Vu Tran, sweating profusely, only managed to cry out one last desperate plea, "Save me." Immediately after that, countless punches rained down like a storm. Ahai cursed without pause. "You left home to join another clan's sword team. Are you insane?" He now could only beg for his life, and the more he begged, the angrier she became. From a distance, Duongthien judged, "If this continues, he will die. Should we intervene?" Luin only crossed his arms and answered, "Let it be." The people. Vu Tran, enduring the beating, screamed out in torment, "Great hero Lai, save me, please save me." He asked back, "That doesn't seem right." The man pondered, "Maybe so." Luin had no choice but to step in and defuse the situation. "Stop now. You will kill your elder brother." Ahai, still in her fury, blurted out, "Who dares to meddle in another family's business?" "Great hero Lai," she exclaimed in shock when she saw his serious face standing firm behind her. Ahai stopped, stepped forward, and respectfully bowed, apologizing for being late. "I am Bin Ahai, great hero of the Yama Fist. I apologize that the matters of our clan have troubled the Ku family." Luin only gently patted her head. "It is fine. I am very glad to have met such an interesting person." Ahai, filled with guilt, softly spoke, "We will compensate Ku family for the damages, so we shall take our leave now to avoid disturbing you any further." Vu Tran suddenly spoke up in denial, "No, I will not leave. The tree wishes to be still, yet the wind does not cease. She flared up and turned to ask, "Do you want to be beaten again?" At this moment his eyes were full of determination. "You are speaking nonsense, little sister." Bin Ahai was startled when she saw this serious expression. She then gently asked, "Why exactly?" Vu Tran only shrugged and repeated his old answer, "Because the Bin family is not happy." Ahai continued, "Then what about Ku family? Are you sure they will be happier than ours?" He smiled faintly, "At least it will still be better." She slowly patted her senior brother's shoulder and reminded, "Please, grow up. Now you are already the young master." Hearing this, Vu Tran confessed, "That is why I must find joy before becoming the clan head. The only way for me not to become clan head is to become a fool or to die. But I want neither. Though I do not want to become the clan head, aside from you and me, the others in the Hebe Bin family are nothing but beasts under the family's name. Therefore, one day I will surely become the clan head, but I cannot allow little sister Ahai to become the clan head. So I have accepted this troublesome and hateful title of young master." After hearing all of this, Ku Duongthien pointed toward them and asked, "Second elder, will you truly allow that one to participate, no matter how you see it? The matter of Bin family and Ku family being tied together this way is a great trouble." Ku Luen frowned and thought, "I also wish to accept, but for the dignity of the Bin family I cannot do otherwise. Youngsters of the Bin family, what do you think?" Both siblings turned around startled. He continued, "If you fight me and win, then I will allow you to participate." Ahai found it absurd. "What are you saying?" Ku Duongthien also protested, "Second elder, have you lost your senses?" Ku Luen, unconcerned with their reactions, still wore a hearty smile. "Only 10 exchanges, finishing it within 10 moves. How about that?" Vu Tran frowned and asked, "So that will be enough?" He calmly replied, "Have you ever seen me lie?" The rule is, Ku Luen had not yet finished speaking, but Ahai already knew this match would not end well. She immediately ordered Lu Tai, "Seize that man." Lu Tai was too late to respond. "Are you talking about the young master?" He continued to set the rules of the match. "Then how about this? Within 10 moves. If you can touch me, you win. How about it?" Without waiting for Ku Luen to finish, Vu Tran had already charged forward. Bin Vu Tran's body was both strong and agile. He did not miss a single opportunity to secure victory. In just a blink, Vu Tran had darted behind him, swiftly launching an attack to seize the advantage. Suddenly a booming laugh rang out, making him flinch. "Frozen midair, brat of the Bin family." Before Vu Tran, the scene shifts to a vast martial arena, surrounded by thousands of spectators cheering loudly. At the center of the stage stand 2 small figures. The voice of the announcer resounds. "Everyone has waited long enough. This is the match that all have been longing for. The duel between 2 martial artists who will shape the future of the Ku family. The battle between the Crimson Flame Sword, Ku Din II, and the first young master, Ku Duongthien of the Ku family." In his heart he wondered, "Why must I fight here, and even against my elder sister?" Time turns back to a few days earlier, when Ku Luen was mercilessly beating Bin Vu Tran into the ground. A single casual punch from him was enough to send Vu Tran flying more than 10 meters. His body slammed hard into the wall, stones and dust scattering everywhere. Only then did Ku Luen exhale a breath heavy with inner force. Suddenly his face lit up with excitement. Victory was mine. Duongthien could not help but ask in disbelief, "Elder, were you only dodging?" Ku Luen glanced at him. "Me? When did I ever?" After all, this was a match agreed upon by both sides, and I had controlled my strength, so he will wake up soon enough. The boy quickly shielded himself with words, "If the Bin family comes to accuse, then it has nothing to do with me." The elder offered words of reassurance, but they were hardly convincing. "Do not worry, I am Yama Fist Hero. If I die, I will not die alone." Duongthien was utterly helpless, wishing he could let the old man die in solitude. "Hey, or rather, I should call you elder sister Ahai." This matter was the second elder's own decision. Before he could finish, Ahai cut in, "Enough. Leaving him lying there like that is for the better. Otherwise, who knows what trouble he would have caused." Perhaps that is why the great hero agreed to such an absurd fight. Kuluan could not help but burst out laughing. Silly girl of the Bin family. How could it be otherwise? I did it simply because it amused me. Duong Thin's face darkened like the bottom of a pot, silently judging. How could this old man ever become an elder of the Ku family? Our family is doomed. Suddenly a cry rang out, young master, and as though prepared for it, he quickly reassured them. Let us hurry inside before the terrifying Grandpa Bear comes. Taida flailed her arms and legs wildly, her eyes shining like stars. Just now, Grandpa Bear, swoosh, bang, then the wind whooshed, and the man fell thud to the ground. Duong Thin could only despair in silence. This woman, her way of describing things is too vivid. How could she ever become the number one under heaven? This world may as well perish already. Kuluan laughed heartily with admiration, then rummaged inside his robe. This pretty girl has sharper eyes than that fool. Since you have been praised, the old man will give you a gift. Ramen 6 Taita hesitantly asked back. A gift. He took out a golden pastry under her adoring gaze. Taita was overjoyed. Taita has liked Grandpa Bear from the start. Kuluan smiled broadly. I knew it. Glancing at Duong Thin's speechless face beside him, he turned and said, Boy, are you sulking because I only gave a gift to the maid? Not helping it, the old man will also give you a gift. He bluntly refused. I do not like sweets, but Kuluan's gift was never sweets. After the Ku Dragon tournament ends, you must take part in a few matches. And that is the reason why Duong Thin is here now, in this arena. Across from him, Ku Din too looked on with contempt. You mean to fight without a sword? He was slowly stretching his muscles, and on hearing that, he muttered to himself, a sword. Am I not already using a sword? Clearly the Ku Flame Fire Wheel art could be applied with many weapons, and sword and fist were the two most common choices. But in the end, I realized fists suited me more, so I no longer used the sword. Is that strange? Dean too shrugged, shaking her head. In truth, whether you use a sword or fist has nothing to do with me. Duong Thin admitted with weary relief, at this moment, that your personality is useful. She smirked and pressed her voice. I am only grateful for this chance. At last the day has come. He did not immediately grasp her meaning, and asked suspiciously, a chance? She declared firmly, yes, a chance. A chance to beat my younger brother legally, and in front of everyone. Ku Duong Thin was utterly helpless, sighing inwardly, elderly, really. Recalling that moment, he had flailed in protest. Why must I fight? And with my elder sister, no less. Kuluan had calmly replied, Boy, even if you whisper I hear it all. After all, this is the festival of the Ku family. If word spreads it was dull, then truly, he had left the sentence hanging. Becoming the victim, he could only sigh deeply. This senile old man, clearly he arranged the duel because it amused him. Very well then, I will simply forfeit midway. But suddenly a voice echoed in his mind. If you plan to forfeit midway. Kuluan at that time was smiling brightly as he gestured toward Bin Vu Tran, who lay sprawled defeated on the ground. Duong Thin understood he no longer had any escape. You want to see me beaten miserably before everyone and lose. The elder pondered a moment, lowering his eyes before calling his name. Duong Thin, do you truly not intend? Hearing that question, he had tilted his head in thought. Glancing up at the flag fluttering in the wind, Duong Thin told himself, not intend to win. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. How could I waste it? I do not intend to waste my strength on a fight with my sister, something that never happened in my past life. And there, standing opposite Dean too, his thoughts cut off. A deep female voice rang out, pulling Duong Thin from his reverie. Junior brother. I utterly hate that just because you are male you will naturally become the family head. I truly cannot accept it. The voice of the announcer rang out. She immediately dashed forward, leaving only a thick cloud of white dust. A lightning-fast slash came straight for him. He instantly tilted his body to evade. Ku Din too was unfazed, raising her sword again, gathering momentum for the next strike. Duong Thin only slightly bowed his head to avoid it, his body as if already programmed in advance. She moved swiftly, her legs sliding quickly across the ground. Dean too spun smoothly and continued her relentless attacks, yet he did not suffer a single scratch. Seeing her astonished expression, Duong Thin quietly guessed her thoughts. My sword skills have reached 3 stars, and that guy is only at 2 stars. How could he possibly dodge? Surely that is what my senior sister is thinking. I am evading by moving half a beat faster, but it is quite tiring. This proves I still need more training. So how should I get through this match? Maybe I should pretend to take a hit and fall. Every strike is extremely dangerous. Can I really remain unharmed after taking one? A voice came through, catching his attention. You still only know how to dodge. In an instant, Dean too lunged in, lowering her stance to attack upward. She quickly grabbed the hem of Duong Thin's robe. Her intent was to stop him from escaping again. A lethal slash flew in, but Duong Thin managed to pull himself free. If she liked restraining him that way, luckily it was just in time. A moment slower, and he might have been split in half. Breaking into cold sweat, he tried to appease her. Even if you pour all your killing intent into it, I can still dodge it easily, sister, so can you please stop now? Duong Thin quietly worried about his future. She put so much killing intent into it that my clothes were shredded as if cut by blades. Dean too could not accept it. I tried hard to accept that I could not become clan head because I am a woman, even though I struggled desperately between life and death. Yet you, a useless trash, push me aside and become clan head simply because you are a man. Do you understand my feelings? Her anger poured into the sword, turning it red and sparking golden flames. Duong Thin was startled to realize she is covering the blade with inner energy. That is dangerous. Her skill had already surpassed 3 stars. Immediately, a flurry of slashes rained down. He strained himself to evade them all. This only drove her into greater fury. Again, you only know how to dodge. Ku Dean too clenched her fist and punched forward. You do nothing. No strength, no effort. If you intend to live uselessly forever, then why not just disappear? She cursed and attacked wildly, her rage reaching its peak. Yet Duong Thin remained unmoved, calm like a still lake. Her eyes brimmed with pain as she slashed a deadly strike. He lowered his gaze, showing no intention to avoid it anymore. But her next words became a massive boulder crashing into that tranquil lake, vanishing like your mother did. Her blazing rage suddenly froze. Duong Thin's firm hand had seized the hilt of her sword. The two stood motionless, the space under the full moon frozen in that instant. His eyes burned brightly on his darkened face. Ku Duong Thin had become a ticking time bomb. He gnashed his teeth and growled, "What did you say?" Ku Duong Thin slowly recalled. Elder sister was the most talented person I had ever met. At just 15 she was already called Sword Peak, and right after turning 20 she became Shenlong Hall, appointed as captain of the Ku clan's 5-sword squad. Everyone acknowledged her talent, but she could not become the clan head of the Ku family. Dean Tutu merged into the stream of remembrance. The one destined to become clan head was Ku Duong Thin, the son of the concubine, yet I did not hate that. Though we are half-siblings, the mother of Ku Duong Thin always treated me kindly, and I cherished her deeply, so I did not resent his existence until that happened. One day, she suddenly disappeared, and father ordered that no one was allowed to search for her, so no one dared to look for her from then on. The words and actions of Ku Duong Thin grew harsher, regardless of who stood before him. Rumors began to spread that he committed vile acts against beautiful female disciples of the clan. Yet even so, the fact that he would become the next clan head did not change. The clan head had always been passed down to men. I hated Ku Duong Thin, one who never valued what he had, who only knew indulgence and pleasure, and I myself always gave my all. No, I despised him. Now, he stood towering before Dean too with eyes full of killing intent, causing her body to suddenly tremble in fear. Instinctively, she flinched and leapt back, keeping a safe distance from Duong Thin, too dangerous. But he was not so easy to handle. Duong Thin dashed behind her, fist ready to strike. In just a heartbeat, the punch tore through the air, stopping only half a hand span from her face. Over at the stands, Bin Ahai could not help but marvel and admiration. She leaned forward to observe. It seems that the girl is named Kudin too, the same age as me yet possessing such strength. I dare not even claim to be of the Bin family anymore. Lu Tai at her side softly consoled. Young lady, you are very skilled as well. Ahai followed every movement of hers and wondered, what is she muttering? Lu Tai, did you hear what she said? Lu Tai denied it. Surely not, young lady. She asked again in puzzlement. Why not? At this moment, Vu Tran stood next to Ahai with his face swollen and finally spoke. Because the second elder had placed a restriction, so of course you cannot hear. Ahai looked at him with irritation. With that face you should not claim to be of the Bin family anymore. Vu Tran asked gloomily, are you ashamed? She retorted, what are you even talking about? You should stay here at the Nine Dragon Gathering until your face is no longer swollen. He then brightened up, receiving an ice pack from Lu Tai. The one fighting there is the junior disciple of Sword Peak. Right, Ahai praised. That's right. Her strength is truly remarkable. It is said she has reached 3 stars, with fluid swordsmanship and the ability to control inner force in an instant. Instead of pressing the ice on his swollen face, Bin Vu Tran sat munching on the ice noisily. No, I am not talking about her. I am talking about the one who dodged all those moves. Is he the junior disciple of Sword Peak? Lu Tai peeked out and explained that the young master is indeed the junior disciple of Sword Peak. He could not help but feel amused. Is that so? So the Ku clan not only has Sword Peak? Vu Tran smiled with interest. In contrast to him, Ahai furrowed her brows in sadness, her heart full of thought. She remembered that in the past her senior brother once said, that is why you must find joy before becoming clan head. Ahai grew gloomy because she understood that once she became clan head, she would no longer be able to witness such scenes. Suddenly Vu Tran spoke up. It's over. Below the arena, when Dean Tu saw Duong Thin's fist right before her eyes, she forced herself to evade. Dean Tu immediately tilted her head and slashed. As long as I dodge, the chance will be mine. The sword aimed straight at his neck. She was determined to win. In contrast to her fury, Duong Thin only spoke calmly. I understand, my elder sister, so it is fine even if you hate me. I have lived this way already. Though your words are harsh, I understand them. So please understand me too. As soon as he finished speaking, he entered a stance preparing to strike. A palm strike carrying a storm and fierce inner force surged forth. Dean too could only watch helplessly, her body no longer able to move. The blow like a thunderbolt landed squarely on her face, knocking her head to the side. The force was so strong it rolled her eyes white. Her whole body staggered. Dean too collapsed unconscious on the ground, while Duong Thin stood silently watching. Even the referee was stunned, stammering as he declared the match over. Duong Thin won. After a while, he sat wearily at the city gate and sighed. I did not mean to win, damn it. Just using 2-star inner force already made her nose bleed and faint. I only hope everything will be fine. Duong Thin recalled that at that time, Dean too had screamed in rage, why don't you just disappear? He lowered his head into silence, his mind tangled with thoughts. The atmosphere around seemed to grow heavier and gloomier. Suddenly a familiar voice called from behind, Young master, are you all right? Are you hurt anywhere? Duong Thin slowly replied, I am fine. How is it inside? Is everything all right? Vodine hesitated. Actually, you might not be pleased, but everyone thought you would be beaten badly, yet you won. So the atmosphere inside is a bit chaotic. He remained calm as if nothing mattered. Of course, someone known as a destroyer defeating a promising young talent. Vodine continued updating the situation. The second elder immediately moved on to the closing speech of the 9 Dragons Assembly, so the mood has settled down. Duong Thin quickly climbed down from his seat, so it is happening right now. Then let us slip away before we run into the second elder. At this moment Roman 6 Taita came forward, her voice filled with worry as she reminded, Young master, your hand is bleeding. He lowered his gaze, looking at his left hand mottled with wounds. That's right. This is proof I still cannot control my inner force. It is fine, just no. She immediately cut him off, carefully using a clean cloth to bandage the wound for Duong-Thin. The sudden action made him blush with embarrassment. But Roman 6 Taida was clumsy, fumbling with it, doing it like this. No, it must be done like this instead. I am not good at this. I am sorry. Taida is not skilled at this. Please do not get hurt anymore. Taida worried so much she burst into tears, her eyes shimmering with tears. Duong-Thin froze before Taida's sincerity. Suddenly Vu Tran appeared from nowhere. I also did not want the 9th young master to be hurt. Duong-Thin was startled and helpless. Damn it, what now? He quickly nitpicked. You just swore. But Duong-Thin pretended not to hear, immediately cutting in. Very nice to meet you, young Master Bin. I am Ku Duong-Thin. Vu Tran was instantly flustered. I am also very glad to meet you. Taide and Vodine whispered behind. Hush, hush. You must not say that. At this time Ahai was hiding behind Lu Tai, senior brother. Please let us go. He only nodded as if he understood. So that is how it is. Vu Tran beamed brightly and analyzed. Since you cancelled the engagement with the 9th young master, you must be embarrassed. Duong-Thin looked at them with a pounding headache. Why are you here? Vu Tran answered casually, taking this opportunity. People with strength like us should connect and become friends. From now on call me Brother Bin. While Ahai still shyly pleaded, please, senior brother. Duong-Thin heard that and gave a warning. If you become friends with me, you will gain nothing. But Vu Tran only laughed heartily and generously praised him. Why would you say such a thing? I thought the 9th family only had Sword Peak Jiu Roman 11 senior sister. I did not expect that such a master like you was hiding here. He silently judged. Why is this guy casually talking so informally with me? But after hearing the name of his senior sister, Duong-Thin was still startled and curious. You mentioned Jiu Roman 11 senior sister. You know my sister. He smiled brightly, his voice full of pride. Of course, we are very close, but I do not know what she thinks. He understood immediately, so they are not close at all. The two continued their lively conversation for a while, Vu Tran's enthusiastic voice echoing through the air. This is close enough. Right, junior brother? Then it is late. I will leave now, junior brother. Duong-Thin watched him depart, but one person still remained, making him suddenly confused. That person was Ahai. She stood straight with a thoughtful face. Duong-Thin crossed his arms in doubt, still having something to say. Ahai thought for a moment, then slowly spoke. On the day I annulled our engagement. I went too far when I struck you with a chair, so I apologize. She calmly admitted her excess with a straightforward expression. He bowed his head, feeling a little awkward yet comforted. You said I was the son of a concubine, even now, but back then I was more childish. I thought I deserved to be hit, so you do not need to apologize. That mature response gradually warmed Ahai's heart. She tilted her head, smiled gently and brightly. Their relationship seemed to have improved. Then Ahai turned and walked away, casually reminding, do not forget what your older brother gave you. Duong-Thin heard and looked down, searching inside his robe. What are you talking about? Then he pulled out a wooden token. On it was written the word Bin. What is this? That question had no answer, for by then the Bin siblings had already gone too far. They gradually disappeared into the sunset. Duong-Thin softly called, then see you again. He stood there in thought before the city gate, his heart full of reflections. Ku Duong-Thin understood that he truly still had many things to accomplish. He turned around and called Vodine and Taide, let us go as well, and they eagerly obeyed. The sky slowly changed its colors. The cheerful chatter of the three rang out without pause. And what about this bandage? Where did it come from? After eating buns I found it lying on the ground, so it smell, thanks to the power of buns. Your hand will soon heal. Hey, do not throw the bandage away. Please do not throw it away. In the dark forest, a group of people were riding forward on horseback. Hong Hoa cautiously glanced at Taide, who was still sound asleep, and softly called, Taide. Meanwhile, Duong-Thin sat gloomily by the window, lost in thought. No matter how I think, I cannot recall ever having fought my senior sister in my previous life, let alone defeating her. Then he turned to quietly observe her. From the moment Roman 6 Tieta became a maid, many things had already begun to differ from the past life I knew. Tieta was sleeping deeply, unaware of the world. Perhaps the small kindness I showed her has changed something. After a while, Duongthien kept staring absent-mindedly out the window and murmured to himself, "When we return, I must act faster than planned." Suddenly he sensed something unusual. Duongthien hurriedly called Vodine, checked the demon talisman. Vodine looked puzzled and asked back, "The demon talisman?" He raised the charm to inspect it and happily reported, "No reaction, young master. Though I do not know what you sensed. If a demon gate appeared nearby, it would glow on its own, so you should not worry. Rest assured, young master." But before his second sentence finished, the charm began to glow. Vodine panicked, lifted the charm high and ordered, "Stop immediately." His expression grew increasingly grave. "It is the demon gate. Everyone prepares for battle. Top priority is to protect the young master's safety." When he saw the boy step outside, Vodine nervously moved closer. "Why are you here? It is too dangerous." "Young master, the situation is very dangerous now." Duongthien heard this and frowned in irritation. "I will listen to your nagging later." At that moment, a rift in the barrier appeared ahead. "First look forward." The hole widened quickly, radiating a green light. Then suddenly, a pack of ferocious wolves charged straight at everyone. He reached back to summon his power, green light indicating the lowest level of danger, though still troublesome. Duongthien then struck a powerful blow into the body of a wolf. "But we can handle them." After that, he pulled out a green stone, the common weakness of all demonic beasts. Duongthien clenched the stone tightly in his hand, a demon stone. It is like the heart of the demonic beast. As long as it is taken, the beast will die instantly. Suddenly, while Duongthien was still lost in thought, a wolf attacked from behind. He barely dodged its strike. Taking the demon stone should have been easy, but now his body seemed completely drained of Suddenly, the voice of Vodine rang out, drawing Duongthien's attention. "Young master." In an instant, he leapt in front to shield him. Vodine unleashed a flurry of sword strikes, slashing fiercely at the wolves. This sight shocked Duongthien. He is that strong. He stared fixedly at the steadfast figure before him. Then Vodine urgently turned back to ask, "Young master, are you unharmed?" Only then did he regain his senses. "Thank you. It is thanks to you that I survived." "Is it over already? So fast?" Vodine answered nearby. Yes, the number of demonic beasts was not large, and fortunately they were only the lowest level. But how dangerous! If the young master had been hurt then? Duongthien scratched his face and forced a stiff smile. "But everything has been resolved smoothly now, has it not?" Vodine retorted, "How can you say that?" Then suddenly Duongthien's gaze shifted aside. Faint purple lights flickered. Meanwhile Vodine continued, "No matter what, next time you must go to a safe place. You are the young master of the 9th family." A piercing scream rang out, and Duongthien collapsed to the ground. Vodine spun around in panic, staring at him, clutching his stomach in pain. "Young master, what is wrong?" Duongthien's entire body felt as if it would explode. "Damn it! What is this cursed sensation? Why here?" This is a martial art that absorbs demonic energy of the heavenly demon. It is the heavenly demon absorption art. And now his hands glowed with a stream of purple energy carrying terrifying power. In another vision of his past life, a man covered in wounds appeared. Holding his severed right arm, he asked anxiously, "Why did you do this? What did we do wrong? Why treat us this way?" From above, before his reincarnation, Ku Duongthien coldly looked down at the man. "Plum Blossom Ultimate Sword. Is that your final testament?" The man froze in terror, turning to see the corpses strewn around him. His face grew grim as he spoke. Then now, suddenly a massive shadow engulfed the ground along with a resounding call, "Sect Master." A colossal dragon slowly descended. Plum Blossom. Not bad. Upon its head was a figure seated calmly. That mysterious person leapt down lightly. walking with graceful steps. Then she leisurely advanced toward him. Duong Thien respectfully saluted. In his subconscious, he clearly felt the presence of that person. So lift your head. Even across a lifetime, Ku Duong Thien could still sense that strange power flowing into his body. At this moment, Duong Thien's eyes revealed extreme confusion. What is this? Is the fire wheel art purifying the demonic energy? No, this is the feeling of devouring. This never happened in the previous life. Returning to reality, Taide and Vo Dien anxiously called out, "Young master." They quickly helped him sit up. "Are you all right?" Duong Thien answered briefly to show that he was fine. Then he explained everything in one breath for them to hear. "It seems to be nothing. Maybe I still had some wound left from the fight with my elder sister." Vo Dien immediately suggested that I will find a doctor nearby, but Duong Thien stopped him. "I am fine already, do not worry." He thought to himself, "It is best to hide this matter. It would not be good if others knew I could absorb demonic energy." Suddenly she popped up from behind with a whining voice. "Young master, you look badly hurt. Does it hurt?" Duong Thien let Taida pinch his face and asked, "Do I look that bad?" "It probably does not hurt much," she said sadly. "The face is fine. I cannot see." Yet he grew furious. "What?" A moment later, Hong Hoa stepped forward and pressed her head down to remind Taide, "Do not trouble the young master." Taida resisted wildly. "I am just worried." Vo Dien also offered advice. "Young master, if you do not feel well, we will find a doctor nearby." Duong Thien stood up, conveniently discussing with him. "I am fine. Do not worry. A night's sleep will heal it. Let us prepare to depart." Vo Dien hesitated slightly. "If you say so." Everyone gradually dispersed, many voices overlapping. "Prepare to depart. Only collect enough demonic beast corpses. The young master is tired. Let us hurry and go." Only he remained absent-mindedly observing his body. "I can no longer sense the demonic energy I absorbed. Did the 9-flame fire wheel art do something?" Looking at the demon stone that had lost all its color, surely the demonic energy had been completely absorbed. Anyway, I must act quickly. Ku Duong Thien immediately crushed the demon stone in his hand. Taida ran to the pastry stall and chirped excitedly, "Young master." The freshly baked delicious cakes made her unable to resist. She pointed at the stall and then turned to look at Duong Thien with sparkling eyes. "Cake." He indifferently walked past and asked, "What do you want?" She was bewildered for a moment, then quickly changed her tone to question, "If you will not buy cakes for Taida, then why did you bring Taide along?" Duong Thien coldly poured a bucket of cold water on her face. "What are you saying? I already said I would go to the market. You used your grandfather as an excuse to follow me. Did you forget?" Hearing this, Taida felt wronged and clung to his leg begging, "Let me go with you. Grandfather said I must follow you." Duong Thien helplessly had no choice but to let her come along. Vo Dien saw the bored expression on his face and asked curiously, "Young master, then why did you go to the market? Your body has not yet recovered after the last incident. The 9 Dragons assembly just ended a day ago. If you have nothing important to do, you should return instead. Or are you searching for something? If so, I will help you find it." Duong Thien immediately replied, "I know you want to help, but now is not the time for you to act." As they were passing through an alley, he suddenly tilted his head to look inside. In the alley there seemed to be something strange that caught his attention. He squinted his eyes, bent down to observe, then asked Vo Dien, "No matter how you look at it, it is that place, right?" He was confused. "What are you saying? Is there something in that alley?" After observing, Duong Thien decisively walked into the alley. Before leaving, he did not forget to remind Taide, "Go back. Only Vo Dien will follow me." She panicked and asked why. But he only casually said, "You return to 9th house first. Tonight I will come back. Just give everyone a simple excuse." Seeing him about to leave, Taida put on a tearful face, her eyes welling up. "Ah, my grandfather." She was about to continue speaking when Duong Thien cut her off. "If you return now, I will give you 10 cakes. As soon as she heard cake, her attitude instantly changed 180 degrees. Not only that, she even boldly demanded more. Also buns? Duong Thin agreed immediately. Fine. Tieta raised her hand. The corner of her mouth lifted. The two instantly shook hands in agreement. With that finished, they each went their separate ways. Duong Thin called Vodine. Then let us go. Where to? Just follow me, and you will know. Stepping into the alley, he walked while looking around. After a while, Duong Thin suddenly stopped and turned his head to say, "It seems to be here," Vodine observed, then quickly reminded, "Young master, this place is very dangerous, I know." Ignoring his words, Duong Thin continued to examine, and suddenly he exclaimed, "Found it." They were standing in front of an old abandoned house that looked extremely gloomy. Duong Thin spoke again. "I was worried there was none. It turned out to be unnecessary worry." Vodine still did not understand anything, and turned to him suspiciously. "Young master, why did you come here?" He did not answer but retorted, "What, does it look very strange?" Vodine heard that and was a little embarrassed, but he still honestly admitted, "To be honest, it is true. Not because of the building's appearance, but because I have an ill omen." Duong Thin, upon hearing, immediately praised, "Your senses are keen." The two continued to open the door and enter the house. Inside there were actually people. One of them spoke. "What kid is this? What are you sneaking in here for? What dirty trick are you doing? You must have lost your way, kid." The one behind him is wearing a sword. They continued to turn to ask each other, "So what? Kill him now or not?" Vodine, seeing that, intended to draw his sword, but was stopped by Duong Thin. From inside the darkness, the lamp gradually lit up. Another voice rang out, "Kid." The big boss of the How Men gang stepped forward. "This is not a peaceful place to run around. Why did you come here?" Duong Thin was not the least afraid. He even smiled and replied, "What are we here for? To be guests." He sneered, threatening, "My kid talks bluntly, doesn't he? Or shall we cut his tongue short to make him sober up?" Vodine, who had been silent until now, could not hold back any longer. He shouted angrily, "How dare this guy?" Duong Thin continued to stop him. "Wait, calm down. After all, you have known who I am since I set foot here. Are you worried the Ninth Master will level this place? The Ninth Master has no reason to do so, and if conflict happens we will suffer losses." Duong Thin curled his lip provocatively. "So, before you cause trouble, quickly call the Hall Master out here." The big boss, upon hearing him mention the Hall Master, automatically frowned. His subordinates began to move to both sides, surrounding Duong Thin, "Not knowing where my kid learned this impudent style. How rude." Vodine at this time also had his sword ready in hand, ready to fight at any time. Duong Thin calmly answered the boss's words. Vodine immediately reacted too, drew his sword and rushed forward, at the same time shouting, "Not a chance." The blade grazed the face of one of them. Touched the young master. One by one they were dealt with by him, blood spraying everywhere. In just a moment, his sword had quite a lot of blood on it. When will those guys know fear? The whole bunch were overwhelmed by Vodine alone and dared not act further. The big boss silently cursed in anger, "Damn it. This kid, although he is the son of the Ninth Master, I should have anticipated that he would have a powerful bodyguard. I cannot bring this guy to meet the Hall Master. What to do?" While he was still hesitating and thinking of a strategy, one man suddenly came out from inside the room and called, "Big brother, the Hall Master wants to see elder brother. The Hall Master wants to see me. Has the matter already reached the Hall Master?" "Damn it!" He asked further, "So what did he say?" The other immediately reported the Hall Master's words. "The matter is..." The two stood and talked for a long while, leaving Duong Thin standing not far away. He silently guessed. Just by looking you can tell they're plotting something. Tolerate, just tolerate. They wasted Duong Thin's time and made him unhappy, so he ordered Vodine, "Kill them all." No sooner had he finished speaking than the big boss spoke up, "Hey you brat." Vodine's sword had already been at a subordinate's cheek when Duong Thin ordered, "Sheath your sword." The big boss stepped forward to block the door and said, "The Hall Master wants to see you." Upon hearing that he clicked his tongue. A voice full of reproach rose, It would have been better to know that from the start. Vodine, sheath your sword. He obeyed immediately. Yes. After that, Duong Thien followed the big boss. Let's go then. Vodine also scampered after young master. He still had not understood what was happening, and turned to ask, young master, what was going on? Nothing. At first I planned to go to the Kaibang, but there are some issues. Kaibang is one of the 9 major sects and has a wide information network everywhere. But Kaibang is also orthodox, so they would not do shady things. He did not finish telling Vodine, only thinking to himself, my request is a bit sensitive with Kaibang, so I must go elsewhere. If Kaibang is the place with the strongest information network among the orthodox sects, then this place is the one with the strongest information network among the heterodox sects. Both of them strode down to the basement. Upon arrival, Duong Thien and the big boss entered the room, and someone inside spoke, please come in. She smiled brightly and introduced herself. I am Duong Van Thur, Hall Master of the Shaanxi branch. You are an unexpected distinguished guest, so we apologize for our excessive actions. Duong Thien calmly sat in a chair and replied, no need to apologize, so will you accept my request? Van Thur also sat down and directly asked him, earlier, I want to ask why a prestigious family like the 9th Master would bypass the Kaibang and come to lowly heterodox sects like us. Duong Thien smiled smugly and replied, because of my request. Kaibang cannot do it. But how men can? Why do you keep asking again and again? She clasped her hands in reconciliation. If you feel uncomfortable, we apologize. But because you are the son of the 9th Master, we cannot be careless. We hope you understand. He did not want to waste time further, and once again reminded me, I know already, so will you accept my request or not? Van Thur smiled and agreed. How men never refuses a request. As long as the reward is worthy, so consider it accepted. Then Duong Thien immediately placed a sketch on the table. I want to find a person, a little boy, just over 10 years old. Van Thur picked up the paper and studied it carefully. After a moment, she spoke again. Young master, I am sorry, but I have to withdraw what I just said. We cannot accept this request. She explained awkwardly. The previous guest was not a child, but was searching for the whereabouts of the child's guardian. Please understand. Is that so? Duong Thien crossed his arms and smiled sinisterly. How men, master? This is the reward. You still refuse. At this moment, from behind him, several burly men had appeared, each with a face full of murderous intent. They began to draw their swords, and a series of metallic clashes rang out loudly. All of them pointed their sword tips at Duong Thien. Without hesitation, they attacked, the blade glinting with light. Before they could touch Duong Thien, Vodine appeared, blocking all of their attacks. Duong Thien questioned, you said you would not use force. Van Thur interlaced her hands in front of her, her eyes dark as she asked back, how did you know? In contrast to her dark expression, Duong Thien remained calm, continuing, I did not come here to play guessing games. The important thing is we have the information the other party needs, right? She asked skeptically, can you prove that information is real? He tapped lightly on the table, replying provocatively, that is your job. Thinking carefully, Van Thur immediately rejected Duong Thien's advice. Only those in a tight spot would have to do that. He then changed tactics, using soft words to bind firmly. If not necessary, then forget it. I will go to Kaibang and incidentally reveal some information about the How Men Master to Kaibang. Cornered like this, Van Thur, though unwilling, had to agree. We agree. Duong Thien immediately asked, good. How long will it take? She replied at once, approximately 3 months. Fine, let it be. And with that he stood up and left. Before leaving, Duong Thien cheerfully added a sentence. When found, we will exchange information. He did not leave immediately but lingered at the door. Van Thur at this time was resting her head, deep in thought, seemingly facing some difficult problem. Seeing this, Duong Thien could not help but speak loudly, Yitich Mountains. These words immediately snapped her to attention. This is the deposit, he said, and then left. After he departed, Van Thur still sat there pondering. The big boss, curious, asked, "Ye Titch Mountains, Hall Master, do you believe his words?" She furrowed her brows and replied, "He knows even the top secret information about the disappearance of the sect master, so we cannot disbelieve him." Van Thur could not help but wonder, what is he thinking? Judging by the strength of the bodyguard accompanying him, he must have anticipated our reactions. And surely this information was not investigated by the Ninth Master himself. Certainly, the Master of the Ninth Master's family is also involved in this matter. At this moment, Van Thur suddenly placed her hand on her neck. She decisively pulled off the fake skin layer. The big boss standing nearby asked, "Can you take off your clothes?" The mask was completely removed, revealing a young female face. I feel a little stifled. After all, there is no one watching now. She removed her garments while thinking, due to the nature of how men, fearing that the members might not respect or be loyal to the sect master, he had to hide to avoid those who wanted to harm him. Van Thur's eyes carried endless emotions. But then she suddenly closed her eyes tightly, as if trying to suppress her feelings. Her father at this moment was in a dark, secret passage. Duong Thien and Vodine had now walked out of the Hao Men hideout. As soon as they stepped out, the door slammed shut. Reaching this point, he finally breathed a sigh of, "I only know that the Hao Men master had been imprisoned by the Black Knight sect for over 5 years, which led to the war between Hao Men and the Black Knight sect. The war ended when the martial world unexpectedly attacked and annihilated the Black Knight sect. But in that battle, the Hao Men master died, and afterward, Hao Men was nearly destroyed. However, I cannot know the exact location of the Black Knight sect. Fortunately, with just that little information, I found the Hao Men branch in Shaanxi and even met the Hall Master. Though slightly troublesome, I must find him at all costs." The kid had held a high position in the demon sect since childhood. The strategist, known as the brain of the demon sect, Thien Du Lang Ajia Cat Hatch, I intend to find and kill him. Even Roman Sixtide struggled to deal with his strategies. If I don't act first, surely he will help the demon sect grow powerful. At this moment, Vodine suddenly spoke, interrupting Duong Thien's thoughts. "Young master, though I don't know who you are searching for. If it takes 3 months, it will only be summer when news arrives. It seems Hao Men's information network is not as reliable as rumored." Duong Thien, without hesitation, continued, "Then I will have to wait until summer." Mid-sentence, he suddenly realized something and fell silent. Duong Thien's mind began racing. Why do I only remember now? Wasn't the treasure of the Kim Zion Lian family, led by the merchant, discovered around this time? I don't care about the large amounts of gold and jewels in it, but the important thing is the precious spiritual pills. Those who reached high realms through the power of the pills later became demon beings and became Thien Ma's right hand. Not only Jia Cat Hatch, that treasure is also an issue. Even if I want to stop it, the treasure is in Tu Zion. There's no other way. He decided to give up, just quit. I have no way to get to Tu Zion, and even if I could, how would I find that hidden treasure? Let's just buy the cakes and go home." At the same time, on Tiet A's side, the little girl asked bewilderedly, "What are you talking about?" Tight Deep placed his hand on his chest and said, "I want to ask if you want to go with me." He loudly declared, "I will bring you happiness." Tiet A, confused, wondered, what is happening to bring this here? Returning home, Ku Luen approached from a distance, loudly calling out, "Hey there! A fallen leaf is right in front of you," and then he bursts out laughing. Then he continued to tease, "Duong Thien worried me so much that I had to come all the way here. Turns out the problem with Duong Thien was caused by this old servant." Hiu Quan, hearing this, laughed even louder, only to be scolded by Ku Luen, "Stop laughing and get to work." Hiu Quan, still smiling, had his broom crushed in his hand. "Ku Luen, what are you doing?" Without hesitation, Ku Luen revealed, "Senior, aren't you pretending to be a servant at the Ninth Master's residence? Then help me sweep the floor." The senior just broke the broom. "How can we sweep? Then pull out some hair to sweep. Are you serious?" So he had to sit down and pick up each broken piece of the broom. Hiu Quan had now shifted to a relaxed seated position, sipping tea, and continued talking to Ku Luen, who was busy outside. I didn't come all the way here just to see the ninth master's son. Oh no, maybe I did. These words made Ku Luen pause. He glanced backward. The senior noticed too. That kid ran away 3 months ago because he couldn't handle the demonic techniques. Don't waste time on him anymore. Yet now he defeated his elder sister, and Huo Luen Gong's internal energy has stabilized. The more he spoke, the more excited he became. Don't you think that is extraordinary talent? We can't just leave him be. Hiu Quan, confused, asked again, can that really be called talent? I've never seen anyone improve so rapidly in my life. He speculated, surely that child has something special. If the Grand Elder knew about this, he wouldn't let it slide. Ku Luen agreed. Maybe he has already acted. If it's the Grand Elder, surely he has. Now where is that kid? Hiu Quan quickly replied, many people are watching, so he probably won't cause major trouble. Back with Taide, the little girl was bewildered by Tight Deep's words. What are you talking about? He placed his hand on his left chest and, embarrassed, repeated, I want to ask if you want to go with me. I will bring you happiness. To understand why he said that, let's turn to the little girl's narration. This is Taide. Now everyone, focus and listen to what Taide has to say. You're curious about what happened, right? I will tell you. Yesterday, Taide had a dream, but that dream was not very pleasant. In the dream, Taide had injured many people. Although her grandfather did not like her, Taide wanted to stop but still charged into a house and caused injuries, and the man she encountered there said, just a little more and it will be enough. Taide was very confused. The man then stabbed Taide once, but that also made Taide realize something. She said apologetically, I'm sorry. Sorry, Thien. After that nightmare, Taide woke up. She was so scared that she wanted to see the young master, but Hong Hoa, elder sister, told her to go to the training yard, so she ran there immediately. But it seemed that Taide had arrived before the young master, so in the training yard there was only one other person, not the young master. Yet that person said they would bring her happiness. Taide had already been very happy being near the young master. Just then, the young master appeared and saw the scene, and looked frightening again. Then Taide hid behind Duong Thien. He coldly confronted the person in front. Sorry, but that young lady is my maid. Who are you? Who is this guy daring to claim Taide? Look at the red face. Really? I don't know where this guy came from, but he is definitely a scoundrel. Tight Deep quickly apologized. Sorry, I was disrespectful to the ninth master from our first meeting. Do you know me? He clasped his hands sincerely. Yes, and I am Ku Tight Deep. I want to challenge you in the main line. Duong Thien, without hesitation, waved his hand and replied, I refuse. Tight Deep looked up in disbelief at him, and Duong Thien, without sparing words, repeated, I said I refuse. Tight Deep incredulously questioned, Are you running away? Yes. Are you afraid? Yes. Duong Thien kept affirming, making him so angry his veins bulged. You are so weak, running away just over this girl. Duong Thien still smiled casually and mocked, You have sharp eyes. I am very weak. Yes, yes. Then he thought to himself, after causing that incident in the match with elder sister, I'm not foolish enough to fight you, someone I don't even know. Seeing there was nothing more to say, Duong Thien intended to leave quietly, waving his hand in farewell. Well, I'll take my leave. Just as he was about to slip away, Ku Luen suddenly appeared from somewhere, standing directly in front of him, smiling and asking, Oh, you've come all the way here. Why not accept? Duong Thien was startled and exclaimed, What now, grandfather? Tight Deep bowed when he saw him. Second elder, greetings, Tight Deep, long time no see. Duong Thien asked blankly, Do you know who he is? A moment ago he was smiling at Tight Deep. The next moment he turned to question you. Duong Thien, you do not... Ku Luen held Duong Thien's head back, cheerfully asked, Tight Deep, do you want to duel this one? Yes, but he is fearful and avoiding it. You showed no mercy and said, probably here to show off. Or is this an order from the Grand Elder? Ku Luen's words made him freeze. Duong Thin also understood. So that's it. I thought you wanted a challenge to improve your martial skill. Turns out there is an ulterior motive. Everyone knows the Grand Elder is ambitious. He must be waiting to use his incompetent grandson to become family head. But when I defeated Ku Din too, his plan was foiled. So he wants to use his grandson to trample on me. Thinking that, Duong Thin loudly declared, I repeat again, I have absolutely no intention of challenging you. Yet Ku Luen advised, since you came all the way here, have a match. He still refused. I do not want to. I will surely lose. Why should I do that? Ku Luen then laughed complacently and said, I do not think Duong Thin will lose. Duong Thin remained unmoved, decisively took Tight A's hand and left. He did not forget to add, at a glance you seem stronger than elder sister. What are you saying? I do not want to be dragged into this dirty game, nor do I want to fight a match I will surely lose. The two were about to step out the door when an arm suddenly grabbed Tight A's hand, waiting. Tight Deep ran up and held her back. He lowered his voice to counsel. I think you are not worthy of the ninth master. Come with me. That coward and troublemaker is not worthy of you. I will treat you better. Hey. Duong Thin, now angered, glared, released her and came with me. I will fight you. Duong Thin and Tight Deep stood facing each other. He now felt a little regretful. Should I do this? Ku Luen hearing this went over and ruffled his hair. Why do you say that? He smiled and said, this interesting match will help you improve your strength. The boy helplessly nodded. Yes, yes, anyway everything has gone according to the elder's wishes. So whether you win or lose, please fulfill one request of mine. Ku Luen snorted and scolded. This brat. Then he changed his tone and said seriously, I have no reason to comply with your request. If you lose here, the only one who suffers will be you. You will become the family head, right? Duong Thin denied it. Elder, you must be mistaken. I have no intention of becoming family head, he said while loosening his joints. Ku Luen then asked in alarm, what are you talking about, if not you? The direct bloodline. Then who will inherit the family head position? He thought helplessly, I gave up that ambition in my previous life. Why does everyone think I want to become family head? Immediately Duong Thin came up with a way to deal with it. He grinned and said to Ku Luen, if you do not want to meet my request, I will roll on the ground and forfeit. No way. He had to accept. This annoying brat. Fine. But I have one condition. Another condition, he added at once. If you win this match, I will comply. At the same time, Tight Deep on the other side could not be patient and asked, have you finished warming up? He sneered and replied, good enough. Then Tight Deep suddenly said, I apologize, ninth young master, which puzzled him. Why do you say that? He taunted. Last year in the match with the ninth young master I went a bit too far. Who would have expected you to be bedridden for a whole month? Duong Thin hearing this thought suspiciously. Was I sick that long? Why do I not remember? Tight Deep gripped his sword tightly and continued in a strained voice. At that time I realized the ninth young master was very weak. Although I heard you defeated the second miss, I thought that was mere coincidence, though my grandfather did not think so. I do not want to bully the weak. He tightened his grip on the sword hilt as power gradually gathered. The sword in Tight Deep's hand seemed imbued with power, he emphasized, but what I hate even more is letting the weak become the family head. Facing the storm of energy, Duong Thin still just stood there. Tight Deep then turned to Ku Luen and called, second elder. He agreed. The condition must be fair. Tight Deep, what do you want? He hesitated for a moment, then said to Tight A, I want that maid. This once again made Duong Thin angry, but he laughed, then scolded this bastard, his gaze now carrying a hint of killing intent. Ku Luen, amused, approved his request. Fine, let the match begin. The power surging from both sides started rising. Seeing Tight Deep standing still, Duong Thin asked, why aren't you moving? He replied disdainfully, the rule of the match is to allow the weaker side to strike first. Duong Thin did not get angry, only coldly asked again, on the weaker side, who, me, are you afraid? Facing this killing intent, Tight Deep pressed his lips nervously, clearly, in internal strength, speed, power, everything I surpass him. Or is it his fervor? No, impossible. He is full of openings from head to toe. Surely he is using all his strength to counter my internal energy. And that means, indeed. In an instant, his anxious expression vanished, replaced by a smug smile. He is using less internal energy than me to defend, so it will soon be exhausted. Now he is just unarmed. At this moment, Duongthien did not hesitate, assumed a ready stance, and shouted, "You said I could attack first?" Tight Deep, without hesitation, replied, "Fine, go ahead," and Duongthien was already right behind him. But he quickly realized. As soon as Duongthien struck, he leaned to dodge. He gripped his sword tightly, laughing mockingly, "Though you took the position behind, it's too slow." While he spoke, Duongthien silently clenched his fist, focusing all his strength into his right arm. As soon as Tight Deep finished speaking, he punched straight into his face. The speed was so fast that Tight Deep had no time to react. His whole body was sent flying backward, falling at a speed comparable to an airplane. In an instant, the fall created an explosion that shook the ground. Blood gushed like a stream. Tight Deep's mouth continued to bleed. Duongthien coldly said, "Get up, I'm giving you time. Don't say you were caught off guard and can't get up, or maybe that's enough." He knelt on one knee, struggling to support his body and stand, and didn't forget to continue. "I apologize for underestimating the ninth young master. I am still inadequate." Duongthien, misunderstanding him, said, "Fine, then we'll end it here." Tight Deep immediately Seeing the power surrounding him, Duongthien thought, "Looks like this won't end quickly. I don't have much time." Normally, I would release my internal energy outward. But to face someone stronger than me, I must store the energy inside to enhance my body. Even though it's a short time, my body still cannot fully withstand the internal energy. If forced, I might suffer an internal backlash. The limit is 7 minutes. I have to finish the fight within 7 minutes. The 9-dragon red 7 sword that he is using is a technique that begins and ends with drawing the sword, so I just need to be careful when he withdraws it. While thinking this, Tight Deep made his next move. He drew his sword. Duongthien's eyes widened in alarm. In a flash, Tight Deep struck. Fortunately, Duongthien managed to dodge in time. His slash left many marks on the ground. Tight Deep's eyes were blood red. He lunged forward, unleashing a flurry of continuous attacks at Duongthien. While dodging, Duongthien thought, "The techniques are connected seamlessly with no openings. Clearly he has practiced a lot." But seamless connection means, if it is broken, there is no retreat. After dodging all the attacks, Duongthien began to exert his internal strength. Meanwhile, Tight Deep was behind him, raising his sword to strike down. A moment before the disaster, Duongthien clenched his fist. The force from his body launched Tight Deep away. It was the brief moment when he released the heat energy within his body. Tight Deep hurriedly shielded his face, struggling to ask, "Where did this internal energy come from?" But Duongthien had no intention of answering, for this short time was enough to determine the outcome. Tight Deep, still off guard, turned pale. Duongthien continued, delivering a full-force punch to Tight Deep's abdomen. Tight Deep's eyes widened, his face twisted in pain. With just one punch, his whole body was thrown backward. At this moment, the expression on Duongthien's face remained completely unchanged. The fiery punch he delivered sent Tight Deep flying far, dust and smoke rising into the air. The force of the punch was so great that Tight Deep slammed straight into the wall, which instantly shattered. Tight Deep collapsed to the ground in agony, leaving only Duongthien's voice echoing, "Do you know what I hate the most? No matter what you say to me, how you treat me, or even if you aim for the position of young master." He painfully, blood gushing from his mouth, thought to himself, "I cannot move." Duongthien slowly stepped forward, his body brimming with killing intent. "I don't care about that, but you, a person like you, dared to touch something you shouldn't have. That is what I hate the most." He stared at Tight Deep with eyes like a predator hunting prey. "I hate that you dared to reach for what you cannot touch. Or should I break your arm so you never dare think of it again?" A red aura enveloped Duong Thin's hand. Yes, it must be done. Right hand is better. At the same time, another hand suddenly rested on Duong Thin's shoulder. Kuluan sat beside him, smiling gently. Good work, Duong Thin. His voice rang out across the ruined arena. Stop. After the fight ended, Duong Thin sat bewildered, listening to Kuluan's scolding. Duong Thin, you've gone too far. He remained calm, sitting with his hands on the floor facing him. We fought knowing the outcome in advance. Then he would stand up and go home himself. Isn't that fine? Kuluan's voice was filled with worry. Aren't you worried that the Grand Elder won't let this go? This kid? Duong Thin sighed, looking back with disdain. Why worry? I don't want to be the head. He shouted angrily. What are you saying? Kuluan continued to scold. If not you, the direct bloodline, then who will inherit the family head position? His attitude was still full of contempt. Anyone is fine. Do you want it or not? Hearing Duong Thin ask her, Tide timidly asked, Is there any food? Duong Thin replied cheerfully, As much as you want. The girl immediately declared, From today, Tide A's dream is to become the big brother here. Kuluan sighed deeply, his face full of helplessness. This is not the time to joke. Yet Duong Thin still teased, What does grandfather think? She must be more suitable than me. Suddenly, Duong Thin realized, now that I remember, when did she start learning swordsmanship? Although called the true disciple of Swordmaster, she must have been taught directly by Swordmaster. But now, thinking back, it seems she was not foolish before. Last winter, when I met Roman 6 Tide, what happened? Why do I not remember? That is not something easy to forget. She sat beside him, seeing his pensive expression, and asked, Young master, are you all right? Duong Thin nodded, then suddenly said humorously, Young master, before going to heaven, please appoint Tide A as the chief. He immediately tapped her head, making her smile shyly. Kuluan now felt powerless, slowly stood up, saying, The matter of the family head will be decided later. After this match you must be tired. Go rest. But Duong Thin continued like a thunderbolt across the sky. Elder, where are you going? You must keep your promise to me. He smiled brightly like sunlight, stretching out both hands. Kuluan calmly asked, What do you want, money or food? Duong Thin replied, I do not need those useless things. With the position of an elder, you can fulfill more difficult requests, right? He exhaled, What do you want? He did not answer immediately, only pointed his hand to the sky on the right, then spoke, Take me to Sichuan. Kuluan was stunned, not understanding, then asked again, Sichuan. Duong Thin held a cup of water and smiled, with the position of the elder. Taking me to Sichuan is not an easy matter. He wanted to check again, but seeing his attitude, realized it was unnecessary worry. Duong Thin slowly put down the teacup, denying that Sichuan is not a street market or my house that I can go whenever I want. You know the only son of the Ku family cannot go around freely. There must be a legitimate reason. Kuluan nodded, pointing at Duong Thin, You can participate in the armed forces competition. He widened his eyes, surprised to hear that name. The armed forces competition is held annually at the Duong family, showcasing weapons crafted by artisans, and each prominent family will be invited to send one participant. This could be an opportunity for him to accomplish his goal while avoiding interference. Kuluan continued, Although it is not necessary to participate, you can use that as a reason to go to Sichuan. You had to fight such a boring match to make this request. At this moment, Duong Thin spoke up, Elder, actually the previous request was just a joke. I want to ask for money. He nodded calmly. I see. Kuluan's gaze now seemed to see through the mortal world. You want to go that much. The elder did not understand Duong Thin's meaning. Old age is truly frightening. Duong Thin began to hesitate. Elder, if not money, then give me a spirit pill. He did not even bother to listen to a single word from Duong Thin, leapt up and declared heroically, Fine, I will take you there immediately. Witness the power of the elder. Duong Thin was officially panicked. Elder, I cancelled my request. Give me something else. Once Kuluan had decided, no one could change it. he shouted regardless of everything. I will take you to Sichuan right now. Duong Thien was at a loss for words. How can we go immediately? At least preparations and reports are needed. Ku Luan quickly issued. Hiu Quan whispered from behind, Taide, stay home and do housework with grandfather. Before he could even realize it, he was being lifted in front of the carriage. Vodine respectfully bowed, young master, everything is ready. In the blink of an eye, Duong Thien had been pulled onto the carriage. He was so stunned his face froze, and they slowly departed from the capital together. Ku Luan called after them, travel safely. After a while of saying goodbye, he and Roman 6 Hiu Quan froze for 2 seconds. Then Hiu Quan turned inside first, let's go do housework. Ku Luan hesitated, elder, do I have to go too? He turned to reply, of course, the old work, the young must help. Ku Luan held a wooden staff and fell into deep thought, silently reflecting. He lowered his voice to confide, only the two of us, and I also felt sad. Just keep working, and I will tell you some of my troubles. Hiu Quan immediately complained, it sounds like you deliberately sent that girl away just to complain. Ku Luan did not care about the reproach, and slowly continued, a few days ago, the head of the Ku family asked me about the divine physician. Judging by his attitude, surely someone asked him to look. He wondered, why is he searching for the divine physician? And that question had no answer. Both Ku Luan and Hiu Quan fell into silence. Then Ku Luan slowly touched the wooden door. He spoke first, if you do not want to talk then tell another story. Your granddaughter, she seems to be Roman 6 Taide. She is not like ordinary people. What on earth is that girl? Taide is Hiu Quan's beloved granddaughter. He did not allow anyone to insult her, so he lowered his voice to warn. You are crossing the line, Ku Luan. Watch your words. Around Hiu Quan radiated countless killing intents, like sacred swords ready to fight. Ku Luan remained extremely calm. Surely humans, creatures all have an aura, only more or less, like the aura you are radiating now. But when I met that girl at the Kulong meeting, at that time his heart was full of thoughts. Then Ku Luan realized, I could not feel any aura from her. If you think the divine physician can cure that girl with holy medicine, then wake up. You know well that is not an illness. Stop there, Ku Luan, Hiu Quan interrupted. He now officially erupted, the deadly aura around him becoming denser and denser. Hiu Quan affirmed, that girl is human. Ku Luan only slightly frowned helplessly. He inwardly understood Hiu Quan's pain. He could not bear to watch any longer, and did not want to linger another moment. Ku Luan turned and left. Stepping toward the gate, he spoke, if you said so then I would believe it. If you want to protect that girl then do it, after all my opinion does not matter. Hiu Quan stood silently for a long time, head bowed. He whispered as if speaking to himself. If she is not human, then I will make up for her shortcomings as a human. If necessary, I will sacrifice my own life, Taide, to live well. A few hours later, the sword master realized Roman 6 Taide had disappeared. The night was bright with the moon and cool with the breeze. Vodine and Hong Hoa were warming themselves by the fire. Vodine looked at her and said, now we just need to prepare the meal and we're done. She replied, it's still a few days until we reach Tu Zion. We have to conserve the provisions. He looked at her, somewhat puzzled, where the young master was. Hong Hoa laughed and said he would practice his martial arts while we prepare. He must be bored. I should have brought Taita along. At this time, Duong Thien was training alone. He kept kicking, then sweeping, and then used all his strength to unleash his abilities. With full force, he struck, causing the earth and sky to tremble. Then he sat heavily on the ground, panting. Duong Thien leaned against the tree, thinking to himself, after just a few moves, my internal energy is already depleted. It has been nearly 10 days since we set out. I have trained diligently, but there has been little progress. He rubbed his head. The biggest problem I realized in the duel with Ku Tight Deep is internal energy. Internal energy is the foundation of all martial arts, but I lack it. He looked at his hands. I must quickly strengthen my internal energy. Suddenly, Duong Thien remembered the time he wielded his magical power. He furrowed his brow, sweating. The Ma Dao Thien Hap Gong is a demonic technique that absorbs Ma Stone into internal energy, similar to the spirit beast's internal elixir or spiritual pills. He recalled the time he generated fire from his hands, but the side effect was that the demonic energy accumulated in the body, causing corruption. Yet, somehow, Kudim Hoa Luan Gong was able to purify the demonic energy. Duong Thien leaned against the tree, feeling slightly exhausted. He pondered, since then I have not sensed any demonic energy. It seems I can enhance my internal energy without side effects. At that moment, he thought of Ma Gong, feeling a bit fearful. But after all, it is the martial art of Thien Ma. It is best to avoid actions related to it. And I have just escaped that damned path. I do not want to return. Lost in thought, suddenly a loud scream rang out, startling Duong Thien. Voices came from that direction, extremely loud. What is going on? No, the matter is, what now? Immediately, Duong Thien went to Vodine and asked, "Why is it so noisy?" He replied, "Young master, the matter is." He led him to where the commotion was happening. At this moment, Hong Hoa was extremely shocked. She fell flat to the ground, stammering, in the carriage. Duong Thien walked over, puzzled. In the carriage? Tide A's voice suddenly rang out. She climbed out of the carriage, face beaming with joy, calling loud. The scene shifted to the previous morning. At that time Tide A was pleading with Hiu Quan. Taida also wanted to go. "Oh, you have not finished the chores yet. Where are you planning to go?" She struggled and said, "Then why did you let me go last time?" He asked, "Are you talking about the Kulong festival?" He glanced at the carriage and continued, "That time, even if you caused trouble, there were people to protect you. But in Tu Zion, no one can protect you." Then he looked at the pile of belongings nearby and said to her, "Understood. Then quickly packed your things." Taida picked up the pile of belongings, hearing that this time you will be traveling for a whole month. She loaded the belongings onto the carriage, still muttering to herself, "Taida is really clumsy. The young master will not like a useless Taida either. I have no other choice." While she was working, suddenly a voice rang out, "Wait." Taida heard it and looked toward the source, shivering. "Who's there?" She walked over to the spot, fidgeting to find the person who spoke. She was puzzled. No one was there. Clearly I heard the sound from inside the crate. Suddenly, an arm pushed her forward. Taida fell forward. She was pushed to sit straight inside the crate, panicking and pleading. "It wasn't me climbing in. It was someone pushing me." "Who is it?" "No, don't joke like that," she stammered. Taida was a little scared. While speaking, the hands appeared again in the shadows, her voice gradually lowering. "I have to go out." Those hands seemed to hypnotize her into sleep. Tide A's eyes slowly closed. Her voice also softened. "Sleepy, sleep." Then she fell with a thud into the cargo crate, drifting off to sleep inside. The voice rang out again, "Sorry." No one noticed that Taida had fallen asleep in the crate. Everyone continued moving. Once ready, we departed. "Young master, everything was prepared. Please take care of her." Once Taida finished recounting, her face brightened. "This is what happened." The three people remained silent, staring at her, somewhat incredulous. Seeing their reaction, she felt a little deflated, thinking perhaps she spoke too softly. Taida shouted once more, "This is what happened." Duong Thien, seeing this, said, "Okay, I heard you." He asked, "So you were possessed, which is why you got on the carriage?" She replied, "Yes, that's right." He gently said, "Go back." Taida felt a little disappointed by Duong Thien's reaction, thinking, "I shouldn't have done that." Her voice rang out again, "Young master." She pointed at the owl flying above. "The owl. Last time I ate an owl. It was tough." He responded coldly, "Really?" The carriage passed a tree. Taida saw a squirrel, she said. Duong Thien looked at Taida, thinking, "I should have sent a guard to take you back. But we have gone too far, and the rations for the guard are limited. So I had no choice but to let you come along." Tide A's face lit up with a bright smile. She held up the worm and looked at him. "Young master, I'll trade this for candy." Duong Thien, seeing this, flicked the candy away. making her cry out, "No, that's my candy." He leaned back toward the carriage door, dazed, thinking, I should have brought her back. Suddenly, a few blue flames shot through the air. Duong-Thin instinctively noticed something, a bit surprised. He called out loudly, "Vodine." He responded, "Yes, I understand. Stop everything." Duong-Thin ducked back, saying, "I suspected why it was so calm." Taida, unaware of the situation, looked out the window and asked if something was happening. "I sense 4 auras. They are monsters from the forest, looking extremely bloodthirsty." Suddenly, he sensed something else, surprised, reduced to 3. One of the monsters was preparing to charge. He began counting, 2. At this moment, Duong-Thin continued counting, even as the monster leapt to the carriage door, 1. Duong-Thin glanced back, his hands beginning to channel his magic, while instructing Taide, "Fall back." Immediately afterward, he turned to face the rear, the monster ready to attack him, when suddenly, the palace attendant appeared from behind, attacking the monster. She drew her sword, channeling her magic through it. She began chanting, and beams of light flashed out. The palace attendant had now cleaved the bear in 2, half flying into the sky, the other half crashing straight to the ground. After dealing with it, the palace attendant retracted her sword. She walked over to Vodine, saying, "I was traveling alone, so I couldn't handle it neatly." Vodine looked a bit puzzled, asking, "Then who are you?" Taida looked at the palace attendant and asked Duong-Thin, "Who is that sister?" He responded, "Don't ask me." She waved her hand, "Sister, over here." Hearing the call, the palace attendant turned around. Duong-Thin looked at her, slightly puzzled, then realized something. Damn it. He recalled something, the blood flowing from a sword tip. The image of the palace attendant appeared, surrounded by countless corpses. Her voice echoed, "It seems this young lady is going to Zion." She approached. "I just happen to want to go there too." The palace attendant turned around and asked politely, "May I come along?" Her eyes were very friendly, showing pity, and she introduced herself, "I am Nam Kung Fai." Seeing that face, Duong-Thin thought, "Why is that crazy woman here?" Recalling that battle that day, the sky was overcast. The image of a black crow eating a corpse. The scene was extremely bloody, bodies mixed with pools of fresh blood. Standing among that pile of corpses was Kung Fai. Duong-Thin was also present then. He said with hatred, "The only survivor is you. Did you kill them all?" Kung Fai withdrew her sword. "What did the leader say?" Duong-Thin replied, "You told me to bring you here. You said you must be insane. The latter was what you meant to say. Are you still sane enough to understand? Let us go." Seeing her going the wrong way, he barked, "Not that way." Her current behavior was bewildering. She kept turning this way and that, left, no, right. Seeing that, he sighed and turned away. "Stop doing weird things. Just follow me. I already feel tired, though I have done nothing." Kung Fai shuffled her feet behind him. She called, "Hey." She asked him if the sword master was strong. Duong-Thin seemed to understand her intention. He turned and said, "I warn you first, do not do unnecessary things. The third venerable is the leader's." She heedlessly kept asking, "How would sword master's sword be, strong or not, stronger than me, stronger than the leader?" The surroundings were desolate, the whole road covered in human blood. He turned toward her with contempt. Duong-Thin began to channel his magic toward Kung Fai. Gritting his teeth, he said, "You crazy girl." Then he struck a palm toward her. "Hey." Kung Fai calmly glanced at that stream of magic. She also began to channel her own magic. She blocked Duong-Thin's attack, and the earth and rock shattered. Her eyes lit up. Her face full of anger, she said, "What, want to fight?" Duong-Thin sighed, looking at her. He pointed at her. "Not that way," she blankly replied. "Ah." His voice rang through the air, "If you know, then shut up and follow me." After walking a while, she called again, "Hey." Duong-Thin annoyedly turned his head. "If you mention the third venerable again, I will tear you apart." She pointed to the side path. "I think going this way is faster." His face was extremely irritated now, veins bulging. He ground his teeth. "What nonsense are you talking about?" The moment he turned back, he no longer saw her figure. He cursed in frustration. Damn it. I reached the destination in less than a day. Yet the male palace attendant took 3 days. Returning to the present, at this moment, the palace attendant was asking Yue for help. It seemed she was heading to Zion. May I accompany you if it's not a bother? Duongfin visibly showed his annoyance. No, we are not going to Zion, and you are indeed very troublesome, he thought. I am not crazy to get entangled with her. Moreover, I have many things I want to say. He looked at the palace attendant and said, furthermore, we still do not know whether she belongs to the Namkung family. How could we let her go along casually? Hearing this, the palace attendant did not know what to say, her face full of disappointment. Is that so? Her eyes opened wide, then gradually half closed. Afterwards, the palace attendant began to unleash her magical power. A beam of light radiated from her body, forcing Vodine to shield himself. Duongfin protected Yue. Vodine looked at him, preparing to draw his sword. He thought to himself, the sword, the Emperor's sword technique. Using that move here would. The palace attendant's eyes suddenly widened. A beam of light shot out along with an extremely strong wind. An explosion occurred in the middle of the forest, accompanied by mysterious blue lightning. The palace attendant gently said, my strength is still weak, so I can only show this much. At some point, the blade of Vodine's sword had already been pressed to her neck, his gaze extremely sharp, yet the palace attendant calmly said, is this enough to prove myself? Seeing the scene unfold, Duongfin said, indeed, she is someone from the Namkung family. He smiled and replied, we absolutely cannot go along with someone who wields such terrifying martial arts. Sorry. In the middle of the night, the palace attendant was sitting in a corner, roasting frog meat alone. Yue saw this and said, sister, she seems to be eating. He replied casually, I know. Seeing her like that, Duongfin thought to himself, I thought she would leave after being refused, but unexpectedly she clung to the carriage, and I already said we are not going to Zion. Why does she keep following? Considering her non-existent, as soon as he thought this, Duongfin turned to Yue, saying, do not talk or do anything unnecessary with her. Before he could finish, he realized Yue had disappeared. He looked over and realized she was with the palace attendant, enthusiastically saying, peeling frog skin like this. While talking, suddenly from behind, Duongfin grabbed Yue's shirt, making her scream loudly. He pulled her backward and asked, hey, what are you doing? Yue answered honestly, sister is eating a frog. I am helping her. He said, I already told you not to do weird things. She asked in confusion. When? The palace attendant was now glancing at Duongfin's displeased face. He looked at the palace attendant and said, I know you are from the Namkung family, but why are you here? I don't understand why the precious young lady of the Namkung family comes alone to such a distant place. The palace attendant shyly turned away and said, clearly at first we were going together, but I got lost. Duongfin thought to himself, I predicted this. In the previous life, she was so bad with directions she couldn't tell left from right, and now it's the same. Hearing this, Duongfin asked, and we are not going to T-1-9 Zion. So why did you follow us? The palace attendant honestly replied, I really thought you would go there. She looked at Yue and said, so you are not going to Zion. Yue looked up at Duongfin, who shook his head without saying anything. Then she looked at the palace attendant again. Yue then shouted, we are not going to T-1-9 Zion. He helplessly thought I should have brought her back. He turned to the palace attendant and instructed, whether we go or not, just follow naturally, but don't do anything more. The palace attendant looked at him and said, I am a Namkung palace attendant. He replied, I know. She looked at him and said, I have already introduced myself, so young hero, will you also tell me your name? His face showed annoyance as he said, I don't want to. Before he could finish, he withdrew the words, frowning, Jiu tight deep. She looked slightly blank. He then reintroduced himself. I am Jiu Tight Deep of the Jiu family. Tight Deep? Sorry. 2 days later, I felt guilty toward Jiu Tight Deep. Someone I never thought I would have to apologize to. The next morning, Duongthien was utterly helpless, sticking his head out the door. When Yue's voice rang out, "Sister, look, a flying squirrel." Yue and the palace attendant were walking together, chatting happily. "Have you eaten flying squirrel yet?" "Not yet." Roman 6 Yue had gotten off the carriage at some point, clinging to the Nam Kung palace attendant and chatting, so the carriage slowed down. He said irritably, "Hey, get on the carriage." Hearing this, Yue asked, "Then can sister get in the carriage too?" The palace attendant asked again, "Is it okay? Can I get on the carriage?" He immediately replied, "Who are you?" Before he finished, Yue cut in, "Then I didn't like it anymore." Duongthien looked at Vodine and asked, "Vodine, how long until we arrive?" He replied, "At normal speed it will take 1 more day. With this speed, probably 3 days." Vodine turned to Duongthien, a gently smiling young master. "Although I don't know why you are avoiding this young lady, perhaps you should let her ride the carriage." Duongthien's face showed annoyance. There was no other way. The carriage was approaching a village. Duongthien ordered, "Let's rest in the nearby village and think further." At this moment, the carriage had arrived at the village, and the sky was turning dark. Duongthien stepped down from the carriage and stretched. "So there is only 1 day left, right?" Vodine smiled and said, "Yes, fortunately we don't have to camp on the last day." The palace attendant was carrying Yue on her back, and Yue excitedly said to her, "Sister, sleep with us too." The attendant hesitated. "Really, is that okay?" Yue gently replied, "As long as the young master allows it." Seeing this scene, Duongthien immediately scolded, "Get down from someone's back before you speak. And why is this noble young lady carrying another person's maid?" The attendant just replied, "She said her legs hurt." Vodine looked at Duongthien and said, "I will go find a place to stay." Duongthien was still scolding Yue. "If your legs hurt, you should ride the carriage." Yue replied, "Sister said I cannot ride the carriage." Duongthien looked at both of them and said, "Now that we have arrived, stop causing trouble, get down." The attendant looked at Yue and asked, "Yue, do you want to get down now?" Suddenly Yue saw some people coming out from the village, and she pointed at them. "There are people dressed like sisters walking over there." Thien Tuan saw the attendant and ran over, calling as he ran, "Sister." He ran up, his face full of worry, asking, "Where did sister go? Does sister know how hard everyone in the family searched for her?" The attendant just replied, "Sorry, I got lost." Thien Tuan then shouted, "That's why I said tie sister up with a rope." The attendant shyly said, "That would be too embarrassing." He frowned, so sister disappeared in less than a day. I was so worried I could die. Then he noticed the person the attendant was carrying on her back and asked, "But this young lady is?" Yue immediately leaned forward and said, "I am Yue, and this is my young master." Duongthien didn't care about the others. He only asked her, "Why haven't you gotten down yet?" He looked at Thien Tuan, then furrowed his brow. If she is the younger sister of the palace attendant, then she will surely later be called one of the 5 swords of the martial world. The Thunder Sword. Ah no. Thien Tuan's face was very friendly. He greeted everyone and respectfully introduced himself. "I am Nam Kung Thien Tuan of the Nam Kung family." Duongthien also introduced himself. "I am Ku Duong, Jiu Tight Deep of the Jiu family. Pleased to meet Loi Long here." Hearing this, Thien Tuan felt a little embarrassed. He scratched his head and replied, "Pleased to meet you, you flatter me." Then his eyes suddenly darkened. He looked at Duongthien with malice. "But why are you with my sister?" Duongthien immediately replied, "I happened to meet her on the way to Tuzayan, so I went along with her." The attendant heard this and objected. "You said you were not going to Tuzayan, and I walked here myself." Yue's expression also darkened as she looked at the two of them. Thien Tuan politely said, "My sister was rude. If you don't mind, we have many empty rooms. Do you want to stay there?" Duongthien smiled and replied, "It's fine. I'm just doing what I need to do. No need to thank me." Then he glanced at Kung Fai, thinking inwardly, "Sorry, but I do not want to be entangled with her anymore. We can find an inn and be out of sight." Vodine had been looking for a room and then reported, "Young master, There are no vacant rooms left. Duong Thin raised an eyebrow and said, then prepare to camp. Vodine pleaded early, young master, the maids are exhausted from camping these past days. Do you intend to camp again? We really are fine, truly, if the young master wants to then. Before he finished, Duong Thin cut in, then we will ask to borrow lodging. The first action of the Nam Kung Palace attendant as a demon was to personally annihilate her family, not only her younger brother but also the family head and all disciples. Thus she was called the Demon Empress and rose to fame. At this time, Duong Thin had a room. He gazed at the scenery ahead and thought. Back then I wondered how much she hated her family, but judging by her relationship with Loi Long it does not seem so. I thought she was like me and Kudin too. Recalling when Kung Fai exerted her magic, he thought the most puzzling thing was the Emperor's sword technique of the Nam Kung family that she used. With that technique she seemed stronger than Loi Long, so why are there no nicknames or rumors about her? Then he opened his room door. Her younger brother seemed ordinary. What is wrong with her? As he stepped outside, he met Thin Tuan approaching. Duong Thin greeted cheerfully, young hero cheerfully. Did you sleep well? Thanks for letting us use such a nice room. Thin Tuan paid no heed. He shoved Duong Thin hard on the shoulder, which surprised him. Thin Tuan glared with hatred and said coldly, you should know your place. Duong Thin looked puzzled, not knowing what was happening. Thin Tuan turned away angrily. I was going to let it go, but you are truly rude. Do not you dare speak to my sister. His face contorted. He furrowed his brow. A killing intent radiated around him. I do not know how you lured my sister, but if you do it again I will cut you in half. And that wench climbed onto my sister's back. At that moment, Kung Fai stuck her head out of the room. Thin Tuan. When he saw his sister his face changed. He tried to seem pleasant and friendly. I heard you slept well. Good. I am also happy to serve the 9th young master. Then he pushed his sister and said, let us go have breakfast. Kung Fai seemed about to say something. She said, wait. Duong Thin glanced at them and thought, indeed they are lunatics. At the same time, Vodine had arrived at Duong Thin's door. He asked respectfully, young master, did you sleep well? Just now the people from the Nam Kung family. Duong Thin stepped outside with him and didn't mention them again. Hearing this, Vodine looked a bit puzzled. Duong Thin continued, when will we depart? Vodine replied, everything is ready. You just need to finish breakfast and we can set off immediately. He looked at him and said, luckily you are normal. Vodine responded, thank you. But then hesitated, normal. Duong Thin went to the dining hall, opened the door and said to Vodine, eat quickly and then depart, thinking inwardly, I want to leave the people of the Nam Kung family as soon as possible. In the dining hall, Kung Fai and Taide were already there. Kung Fai saw him and said, sorry I did not greet you properly just now. Taide, chewing a bun, said, young master, you are here. The buns here are very delicious. Eat quickly before they get cold. Duong Thin looked at Kung Fai and Taide and asked, do I really have to sit there to eat? Duong Thin went to the table, sat close to Taide, glanced at Kung Fai and said, my maid is fine, but your place is not here. He looked at the murderous glare. She replied, I am just sitting nearby. Your younger brother is looking at me with a murderous gaze. Kung Fai looked back blankly. It's fine. Just as she turned to her sister, Thin Tuan's expression immediately changed, full of friendliness. Seeing this, Kung Fai said, not at all. Duong Thin only cursed inwardly, damn it. While chewing the bun, he thought, I don't understand what your intentions are, but we will not meet again after the war. Thinking this, he stood up and left the table, saying, then I will take my leave first. Kung Fai said, you haven't finished eating yet. He replied, I am full, thinking to myself, since we may never meet again, don't get entangled. Duong Thin went outside, smiled at Kung Fai, said, you can eat freely. Taide ran after him. Kung Fai just silently watched without saying anything. Suddenly she smelled something. The smell was extremely unpleasant, forcing Kung Fai to cover her nose. As she felt discomfort, Thin Tuan's voice rang out, sister? He walked over, frowned and said, "Everyone is sitting over there? Why is my sister sitting here?" Kung Fai glanced at Thien Tuan, her face darkened. At this moment, she noticed a terrifying killing intent surrounding Thien Tuan. His demeanor made her feel fear. Kung Fai gently explained, "Because this spot is closer." Thien Tuan sighed and said, "Next time sit in the right place." She replied, "Sorry." Her dark gaze followed Vodine, Taide, and Duong Thien as they departed. Suddenly she sat up. Seeing this, Thien Tuan asked, "Sister, you haven't finished eating. Where are you going?" She replied tiredly, "The carriage. I will rest there first." Thien Tuan's eyes followed her. Seeing Kung Fai, Taida cheered, "Sister, why are you following again?" Thien Tuan cracked his fingers, looked toward them with disgust. "I hate meddlers the most." Duong Thien asked in confusion, "Excuse me, but why is the young lady still following us?" Kung Fai calmly replied, "I am not following, but going together." Hearing her answer, he could only accept it. He said, "Fine then," and then pointed toward Thien Tuan's carriage and said, "But the young lady already has someone accompanying her. Why is she in our carriage?" Kung Fai was explaining, "That is because," when suddenly Taida interjected, her face beaming with excitement, saying, "Taida has helped her up." Hearing this, Duong Thien, furious, said to Vodine, "Vodine, make both of them get off the carriage." Vodine, sweating, smiled wryly, "Surely they will get down on their own." The scene of the village before them was magnificent and splendid. He said, "We have arrived at Tuzayan." Tuzayan Duongman is a righteous family that has rooted in the Tuzayan region for many centuries. The Nam Kung family is famous for its sharp swordsmanship, Ha Bak Bin family for its powerful aura, Mak Dung family for its grace. Although Duongman seems inferior to the other families, they are renowned as the #1 in the Central Plains for their expertise in poisons and hidden weapons, and the Duong Bin War Tournament is proof of that confidence. Duong Thien tapped his hand against his cheek, pondering. 3 days after the war tournament ends, I must find the treasure within these 3 days. Despite Taida running excitedly around the spacious room, he remained lost in thought. The only information he had was that the treasure was somewhere in Tuzayan and the surrounding environment, but he thought, how can I possibly find it in such a vast area? He propped his chin, frowned, thinking, if I don't find it, I will have to reveal the information to the gang, so I must run around tirelessly. Suddenly, Taida screamed, startling Duong Thien. He looked at her in surprise, wondering, why is she here? Taida looked at the night scene outside the city with delight, thinking, this is the first time I've climbed this high. The wind is so refreshing. She turned to him, eyes bright, and said, Young master, look, the fireflies are dancing under the moonlight. He just looked at her without speaking. Taida continued, and Fi said there is a beautiful lake there. As soon as she finished speaking, she grabbed his hand, pulling him along, excitedly saying, Let's go see it together, young master. On a night with clear moonlight and gentle wind, Taida and Duong Thien stood before a lotus pond. At this point, Taida had been hit on the head by Duong Thien several times, swelling into 2 obvious lumps. He looked at the lotus pond in admiration, thinking, just as you said, this place is indeed vast. Then he wondered, how large must this family estate be that there is even a forest inside? Suddenly Taida noticed something and called out, Young master. He turned around, and Taida was holding 2 flowers, pretending to hide among them. Young master, guess where Taida is? Duong Thien glanced elsewhere and said, Don't do that. Taida felt hurt, thinking, I just want to make the young master happy because he seems worried. He replied coldly, You won't help at all, don't bother. Hearing this, she protested, No, if the young master confided in Taida, maybe everything could be resolved. Duong Thien continued, Fine, then if someone hides precious things in this vast land, how do you think they could be found? Taida frowned at him. Why hide them? How annoying. I don't need your sympathy. Suddenly, a voice rang out, Who are you? The voice was full of murderous intent. Outsiders are not allowed here. Seeing her, he frowned, remembering, this is the name of the Duong family, someone who later fought thousands of demons alone invading Tu Zion. Tuan Hyatt stepped down the stairs. Her face was displeased as she asked, "Who are you?" "This is Dak Fong Duong Tuan Hyatt, the woman he had killed in a past life." Duong Thin recalled those memories. At this moment, his feet stepped on a streak of blood. Around him were both corpses and blood. Facing him was Tuan Hyatt. She was utterly exhausted, sitting slumped on the ground. Duong Thin glanced at her, thinking, "Is it all over now, Dak Fong?" Hearing a sound, she unconsciously lifted her head. Her eyes seemed unable to open. She squinted and asked with a curled lip, "Is it you?" Duong Thin, gritting his teeth, said, "Ridiculous. Your bloodline has long since fled, and you think guarding this place alone does any good?" She asked back sharply, "So what if that's the case?" Duong Thin raised an eyebrow. "And why?" Tuan Hyatt smiled and asked, "Then why have you come here?" He said with contempt, "A ridiculous question." Then he forcefully grabbed her neck, his gaze becoming more ferocious, his face showing irritation. "I have come to end your last life." Tuan Hyatt forced a smile and said, "Is that so? I apologize to you." Hearing this, Duong Thin questioned, "Apologize to a demon? Have you truly gone mad, Dak Fong?" She laughed and replied, "Perhaps I have indeed gone mad. After losing my eyes, I finally saw many things. If only I had gone mad sooner." Duong Thin looked at her with disgust, saying, "Stop talking nonsense. Is that all you want to say?" Yet she continued, "Although that is not what I could wish for. If you still exist in this world, then you—" Before she could finish, Duong Thin crushed Tuan Hyatt's neck, blood splattering everywhere. Afterward, he turned away, looking at his hands covered in fresh blood, his face full of disgust. He muttered, "Disgusting." Returning to the present, Tuan Hyatt was now standing on the stairs, her face full of anger, shouting, "Won't you answer?" He looked at her enraged figure pointing at him, even though she was shorter than him, thinking to himself, "It seems she is still Dak Fong." She angrily said, "If you don't answer, I will." Before she could finish, a hand rested on her shoulder, and someone called her name, Tuan Hyatt. That person was Kung Fai, and the two of them spoke briefly. Suddenly, Tuan Hyatt exclaimed, "Elder sister, why just now?" Kung Fai cut her off. "I am not asking about that." After hearing the explanation, it seemed to En Hyatt understood something, and she introduced herself. "I am Duong Tuan Hyatt of the Duong sect. Sorry for raising my voice to a distinguished guest." Duong Thin saw this and shook her hand. "I am Ku Tight Deep, and I also apologize for not responding to you." Suddenly, her brows furrowed, her face darkened as she asked, "But why is the 9th young master here?" "Outsiders are not allowed in," Duong Thin said. "The Nam Kung young lady is also an outsider." She immediately shouted, "The bloodline has allowed her to enter." Hearing this, he immediately understood, "So you wanted to chase me away. How stingy. But anyway, I was planning to leave, so I took my leave." Saying that, he left with Taide. As soon as they left, Tuan Hyatt frowned in annoyance. "Ku Tight Deep of the Ku family. Truly rude, isn't it?" Hearing this, Kung Fai could only remain silent. Then she called out her name, Tuan Hyatt. Seeing this, Tuan Hyatt asked, "Why are you looking at me so fearfully?" "I was only reminding him. I don't like it when he doesn't apologize." Her face was slightly embarrassed, thinking, "Is it true that being handsome means everything? I hate people who rely only on appearance." Then Tuan Hyatt fell silent for a moment, but her face was still flushed. Her tomato-red face suddenly turned to Kung Fai to explain, even though no one said anything. "No, handsome means—" Kung Fai was puzzled by Tuan Hyatt's behavior. She subconsciously thought of Duong Thin's stern expression and compared it to the words, handsome, elegant. Tuan Hyatt then turned away and said over her shoulder, "Indeed, though ugly, being warm and kind is still better, but being a little beautiful is also good." At the same time, Duong Thin and Taita were playing together, and Taita looked extremely happy.